You just got weaseled. We are building a weasel army, all right? This hurts. Like, I was in the Contrapoints community early on, and a lot of what she did, a lot of what she created truly inspired me. But yeah, I've always realized that there was an ideological difference between her and myself and most of the people in that community. So I guess if I am procrastinated, that's why. If I'm procrastinating, that's why. It's just like, because like, I mean, at this point, there's no denying it. Look, I mean, she's made a lot of mistakes. I have said when I thought she was making a mistake. I've always reserved a certain level of understanding and a certain level of hope for her, just because of what she's meant to me. But at this point, chat, I gotta call it. I gotta say it. Contrapoints is cooked. RedTube is toast. It's never gonna be the way that it was, and it honestly wasn't actually that way to begin with. All this was an ideological misunderstanding. That wanting to fight fascism, wanting to put yourself out there to the point, chat, where Contrapoints had like a huge amount of like harassment coming her way from the alt-right. The kind of content she did is the kind of content that gets you mentioned in the darkest circles of alt-right internet, right? But I gotta call it. There's not going to be a coming back from this. Things need to change on YouTube. Something new needs to... BreadTube is dead and something new needs to grow in its place. There we go. So let's take a look here. All right. I don't know whether I should mute the music or not. Do I need the background? Probably not. It's not professional to talk about important stuff with music in the background, so I'll mute it. All right, so many leftists feel betrayed because I haven't made a video on Palestine. Do they actually want a Contrapoints video on Palestine? Will they be happy if I get in the bath and pour milk on a mannequin of Benjamin Netanyahu? No. So I agree with that. As far as a Contrapoints video, I don't know what a good Contrapoints video on Israel-Palestine would look like. I have several ideas in my head of how a bad Contrapoints video on Israel-Palestine would look. And yeah, that's obviously, an absurd version of it, right? But there's a lot of bad videos that you could make as Contrapoints on Israel, on Palestine. I can't really think of how a good video goes, right? There's a certain level of comedy that and non-seriousness that I don't think would serve the topic, right? But I don't think that people were mad at Contrapoints because there's no video on Palestine, right? I think that the notable thing was her silence, and then recently when she unmuted, she was posting some cringe, right? And whatever, Rathbone, I don't know the guy. I couldn't tell really what the video was trying to say. Maybe that is anti-Semitic, but characterizing the online left as having an anti-Semitism problem is not only wrong, but it is distracting from the real issue at hand, right? So I have posted about Gaza occasionally. She goes on, I have quietly given money to Palestinian aid organizations. Hopefully not the one of Ethan's friend, right? But I think what leftists really want is for me to join their chorus of anger. Yes. Yes. Unironically, yes. They sense some hesitation on my part and are judging me very harshly. So how, Chad, it doesn't even take one paragraph for her to make it about herself. We're not even one paragraph through, right? We're in the first paragraph and she's already made it about her. Okay, anyway, wow. are judging me very harshly on my presumed opinions. I'd rather be judged on my actual opinions, so here they are. Is Israel committing a genocide in Gaza? Yes. Do I oppose it? Yes. Do I feel angry about it? Yes. I also feel a lot of other things, right? 1. Doom. The week of after October 7th, it was clear clear the mood among Israeli leaders and civilians was overwhelmingly kill or be killed, existential panic, and unstoppable lust for revenge. It reminded me of the U.S. after 9/11. Yeah, a lot like that. And not just Israel. The U.S. felt like the U.S. after 9/11. There were people saying like that, this is the end of the pro-Palestinian movement. We can no longer advocate for Palestinians because look at what they did to Israel. Look at the, like the beheaded babies. And, you remember what the fucking fervor was like, right? It was a lot like the U.S. after 9/11. And people were, ideating on some very genocidal type thoughts, not just in Israel, but yes, also in the U.S. That being said, if you are like Contrapoints and myself or somebody, if you have an understanding of the atmosphere of the history of the U.S. with the war on terror and the follow up to 9/11, right? You should be even more adamant about throwing yourself in the way of this machine that is gearing up to kill lots and lots of innocent Palestinians. Myself, Hasan, many other people on the left realized instantaneously when this happened that this act was going to be used as a justification, as a pretext for a much larger, and much more focused on civilians attack against Palestine, right? And that's why we spoke up when it happened. Despite the fact that shit like this, it was not easy to stream like the day after October 7th. It was not easy for me to, it's not an easy thing for me to talk about. Like, right, I have real trouble, separating myself from the, human tragedy that's going on in terms of, and the human tragedy, the even larger human tragedy that I knew was on the horizon. It's something that makes me really emotional, but something, I had to stream, I had to talk about it, I had to speak up, right? Reminded me of the U.S. after 9/11. Yeah. So yeah, somebody that realizes what the U.S. did after 9/11, and the results of that we're still dealing with that in the United States, and the rest of the world is still dealing with that. Fucking countless dead innocent Iraqi civilians had to deal with it, right? You should want to stop that. You should want to stop history from repeating itself. If not, then what can we truly learn from history, right? Her answer seems to be nothing. And I do not accept that answer. Anyway, there's no reasoning or protesting them out of it. Yeah, Israel, the country, the people, the army, the government wanted to hurt Palestinians. And there's probably no way to completely prevent that. However, when you are a citizen of the country that is arming Israel, the least you can do is advocate against the continued arming. Ask them to condition aid on some kind of a diplomatic solution. Right? And are they going to do it? Probably not. But you got to start somewhere. You got to do something. You can't just sitting there and being silent is not a fucking answer. That's deer in the headlights shit, right? And as understandable maybe as that reaction is something we got to always strive to fight against, right? There was no reasoning or protesting them out of it, nor was it politically feasible for the U.S. to withdraw aid to Israel. Politically feasible. I mean, I guess it wouldn't have been popular, but that doesn't make it any less right. And yeah, Biden had no interest in doing that, given Biden's stance on Israel. Biden was not going to do it, it doesn't mean you shouldn't push him. On the timeline that would make a difference. What the fuck is she saying about on the time frame that would have made a difference? They continued this attack for fucking 20 months, right? Am I right about that? Like, it's, yeah, like, just fucking... If you think that withdrawing aid would not have made a difference, you're deluding yourself, right? It would have required replacing most of Congress and overturning... Then do that! Talk about that! Like, right, get it started. At least fight the Richie Torreses of the world. Replacing most of Congress, overturning decades of bipartisan strategy and diplomacy, even in the best case scenario, bipartisan strategy and diplomacy that got us to this point, that got us the Abraham Accords, that got us that gave Israel the Golan Heights, right? Yeah, that's something you should want to stand up. That's something that I'm partially... so I'm somewhat embarrassed for not having stood up and said something about that sooner, right? Even in the best case scenario, it would have taken years, so there was a sense of futility, but worse. Okay, so these are her feelings, she's saying. She centers her feelings on the issue, right? So the first feeling was doom. Second feeling, misery. The leftist pro-Palestinian movement quickly decided that their primary goal was not merely opposition to genocide, but opposition to Zionism in general. Again, because we didn't get here out of nowhere. The reason that we ended up where we were after October 7th was because of Zionism. And the history of Zionism should show you, if you don't already recognize it as being wrong for being settler colonialism, should have shown you the brutality of the Zionist project. Opposition, you say opposition to Zionism in general, I'm going to say opposition to apartheid in general, or whatever the fuck you want to call it, because at this point it's looking worse than apartheid. That is opposition to the existence of Israel as a Jewish state. And here we decide to draw, as a ethno-state, as an ethno-religious state. Yeah, as a fucking... That shouldn't be that hard to oppose, right? Would you want a opposition to the United States as a Christian nation? If Christo-fascists took over the United States? You wouldn't oppose that? Come on. And here they decide to draw the line separating decent people from genocidal fascists. I mean, this is an Ethan Klein argument. This is literally Ethan's. She's dying on the H3 hill here. Genocidal fascists, which had the following consequences. One, it shrunk. Sorry, I want to make it like numbered or whatever. Okay, let me just put. She didn't put numbers on here, but let me just put them on there. All right, one. It shrunk the coalition. Zionist is a very broad category. Most Jews are Zionists. But most Zionists are not Jews. Huh? Think about that for a minute. Anyone who supports the two-state solution is a Zionist. A two-state solution where one of those states is a religiously, an ethno-religious state. Yeah, that's... And here's the thing where she gets it wrong. She thinks that somehow... that the Ethan Kleins of the world were gettable. You could get them on our side. You could, carve a coalition, a meaningful coalition. Is she pro-Biden state? Was she pro-Biden staying in the race? I don't think she said anything about that, did she? Did she say anything? Do not ask that hypothetical. You don't want her to answer true. Wait, which hypothetical? Oh, it's what? Anyway, I have a friend who lives in the West Bank, and the IDF have been treating people like animals for years. Yeah, and what's funny now is that the settlers in the West Bank are fucking running roughshod over even the IDF. That's how bad it got. Also, Narwhal, thank you for the super chat, and that brings us to 110. Wait, I'm supposed to click a button, aren't I? There's the button. Oh wait, it did. It worked. Okay, I'm sorry. I thought I wasn't bringing that up. Anyway, I'm gonna finish reading this really quick before I get to chat. So hold your horses in the chat. I'll be with you in a second. And sorry. Okay, so yeah, shrunk the coalition. Zionist was a very broad category. Most Jews are Zionists. Anyone who supports a two-state solution is a Zionist. And I'm going to say this. Zionists are not useful allies in this sense. Zionists are not reliable allies in this case either, right? It was politically unfeasible, too. It was politically unfeasible. What was the pathway that takes us from the present situation to the dissolution of Israel and a Jewish state? I would guess it looks a lot like the dissolution of apartheid South Africa. That's just me, though. I don't see how this could happen without either a total internal collapse of Israeli society or else, nuclear war. What does she mean by that? Total internal collapse of...
Super chatted $10. Vox Populi.
Vox Populi, very popular today. People supporting the voice of the people in the poll today. So I'm going to add that in. And Vox Populi is now at 60%. Wow. Oh, no, not. Let's see. There we go. 60%. And Cloud XX, thank you. Cloudy XX, thank you for the super chat. I don't see how this could okay, yeah, the total internal collapse of Israeli society. What does she mean? Does she mean Israel, a portion of Israelis developing a principled stance against what's happening? What is total collapse? I'm not sure what she's saying here with the total internal collapse of Israeli society, right? Or else, nuclear war. So, yeah, she's saying if, I don't know what, Syria, Yemen, and I don't know, Lebanon attacked Israel, then Israel would strike back with nukes? Is that what she's saying? I don't know. As usual, leftists have championed a doomed cause. Wow, stopping a genocide is a doomed cause. Look, if that's true, we're all fucked, all right? Especially considering what Trump and Project 2025 have on the agenda. We are all fucked if you can't fight a genocide. And I will say, even if you can't fight it, it's worth it to try. But that's just me. If I'm going to go down, I'm going to go down swinging. That's how I live my life. It introduced dangerous ambiguities. The vagueness of Zionism as a political Satan enables all kinds of rhetorical abuse. On the other hand, right-wing Israelis hold up anti-Zionist protests as essentially threatening and inherently anti-Semitic. On the other hand, there's a long history of anti-Semites using the term Zionist in deliberately equivocal ways, Zog, etc. The funny thing is the biggest use of the word Zionist was in amendments. There was a proposed amendment in the UN to equate Zionism with racism, right? I didn't see it as much. I mean, I guess, yeah, the Nazis had the Zog thing. But until, Candace Owens, until the, post October 7th, atmosphere, you didn't really see right-wingers using, the term Zionist as a pejorative, right? If they were anti-Semitic, they were happy to have a country by which to get rid of the Jewish people, that are local to them, right? And if they were not anti-Semitic, then, very likely they were pro-Israeli and would have viewed Zionist, if they even knew the word, as a positive word, not a negative word. The Christian Zionist, for instance, right? Would see that as a positive. Anti-Semites are happy for opportunities to misappropriate the now popular anti-Zionist label. Okay, this is what I say. You got to always be vigilant about, who's in your group. If Infrared Haas shows up at your college campus and wants to give a speech, you got to kick him the fuck out. And the fucking pro-Palestinian movement had that handled. They do that. There is a gatekeeping to make sure they're very aware of the fucking anti-Semites.
$9.99. If the 1996 Chicago Bulls come after Israel, then it collapses a state. She's scared of the dream team going on full offense.
They will not be able to handle the combination of Jordan and Pippen, right? With Phil Jackson at the helm of that organization, there would be no stopping, unless Israel recruited LeBron, I guess. And that's the end of my basketball knowledge right there. But thank you, Davy Cliff. Thank you for the super chat. I'm supposed to... Wait. I haven't been adding these up. All right, wait. It's supposed to be... It was 110, and then it was 120, and now it's 130. We're at 130, very much in that territory where double bonus content is a possibility. Noam Chomsky said for many years that comparing Israel to South Africa was a gift to Israel because it is far. Yeah, you're not wrong there. I think he's right that Israel is far worse than. South Africans. The white South Africans wanted to dominate the black South Africans, whereas the Israeli. The Israelis want to, at best, ethnically cleanse, and at worst, exterminate Palestinians. So, good point there. Neopergos. Okay. Where was I? On the other hand, there's a long history of anti-Semites using the term Zionist to deliberately equivocal ways. Wait, sorry, equivocal to what? Equivocal? Like, look, equivocating is if you I don't know, compare something to something else and say they're equal, right? I don't know what she means. Deliberately equivocal ways? Equivocal what? To an anti-Semitic slur? I don't get it. Anti-Semites are happy for the opportunity to misappropriate the now popular anti-Zionist label to legitimize their agenda, and many people are not informed enough about anti-Semitism to recognize that when this is happening. There is a problem with people, not recognizing anti-Semitism. That's why the movement has to be strong, and it has to contain people who do. And that's why Jewish participation in the Free Palestine movement is crucial. These problems are mutually reinforcing. Okay, so there's her misery, right? So the third feeling that came up for Contrapoints, dread. The online left. God damn it. Every time somebody says the online left, I want to run the other way because it just so often it's in super, super fucking bad faith, right? All right, so the goddamn online left has spent the last 20 months distributing hundreds of photos and videos of dead Palestinian children. I would argue that the IDF has created those tableaus to be photographed. And so saying the online left, what? Were you supposed to just be like, oh, it's a grieving father standing over the body of his horribly disfigured dead child. I guess I will keep this to myself. What the fuck is that? The main effect of this has been to create a population of people in a constant state of blood-boiling rage with no consequential political outlet. The thing that frustrated that political outlet was the Biden administration and subsequently the Kamala Harris campaign. That's where that blood-boiling rage got frustrated, got stopped up, had nowhere to go, right? And obviously also Trump. Obviously, I hope that should go without saying that I'm not, saying that Trump was better or something. I fear that this may be worse than useless. Anti-Semitism. No, Natalie, I'm sorry. I know something here. I can sense something here that's worse than useless, but it's not the goddamn online left this time, all right? Worse than useless. Anti-Semitism and anti-Zionism are conceptually not the same, and conflating them is dangerous. So why are we conflating them then, Natalie? One wonders. But in practice, the way Israel is does seep into the attitudes towards Jews in general. See, so that's you surrendering to the conflation, right? The only way that it leaks out, seeps into the attitude towards Jews in the diaspora, is when you conflate those two things. So don't do it. I don't think Jews who feel isolated and wary in the current atmosphere are simply hysterical or hallucinating. They may be jumping to conclusions, though, in some cases. There's there's a communal trauma and hypervigilance. Yes, there's disingenuous right-wing ghouls dismissing and censoring all criticism of Israel on pretext of fighting anti-Semitism. Not just that, there's fucking straight-up Nazi-ass suppression of pro-Palestinian advocacy. That's hijacked and is utilizing our immigrations and customs enforcement to enact its suppression. There's also valid fear of historical anti-Semitic patterns recurring, and that gives power to the right-wing Zionist claim that only Israel can keep the Jews safe. Does this mean that Israel should not be criticized and sanctioned? Absolutely not. But it's something. So that's one of the biggest goals of the movement. Boycott, divest, sanction. Yeah, have you heard of it? I don't know. But it's something I don't want to risk contributing to if not outweighed by tangible benefits. So silence is the answer. So I approach the issue cautiously, or not at all. Anyway, so the fourth and last, wait. How long is there one more? Oh no. Oh God, no. Oh God, no. Oh God. I thought there was one more. Anyway, this is the last feeling, I guess, that Contrapoints has been given by the whole situation, which is number 4, bitterness. Much of the online left has spent all of 2024 single-mindedly focused on Palestine and the complicity of Democratic politicians in sending aid to Israel. The campaign had the following effects. All right, look. They were doing Kamala a favor by putting pressure on her to have a fucking backbone. And she did not, and her unwillingness to read the fucking room is what lost her the goddamn election, amongst other things, right? And the complicity of the Democratic politicians in sending aid to Israel. The campaign had the following effects. 1, 0 Palestinian lives were saved. Not one fumer bomb or bullet was fired by the IDF. You change the things you can. All right? And what the movement has been successful in changing is the overall consensus of people in the United States, which was 180 degrees. Chat. What's the Israeli Palestinian? Who's the poll guy? Not Kornacki, but the good guy, the better than Kornacki guy. Israeli Palestinian sympathy. I'm looking for a poll here. It was on MSNBC. Oh, here we go. CNN. Close it up. The Clinton News Network. Anyway.
Morning, Zohran Mamdani is officially the Democratic nominee for New York City mayor, and he's now facing new attacks from President Trump.
Look, the truly tragic thing about the situation, is the innocent Palestinians dying. And I can't point to, people in Palestine who are alive right now, thanks to, any of us, right? I can't point to more that Israel would have done that would not have been done. I can't point to, Welcome, Raiders. Welcome, streamer. We're glad to have you with us today. We are talking, of course, about the Contrapoints situation. Something I suspect that what? 2 raids? Matt, you raided me twice. I feel double rated now. Hey, sometimes you got to get all the chatters in. But good to have you here, and glad you triggered my stand. But yeah, we're talking about the Contrapoints situation. We're right now reading through her Reddit post. It's breaking my heart. It's breaking my heart, chat, because I started off creating content in a large part due to the influence of Contrapoints. I was in her community early on. I feel like I learned a lot from some of her earlier videos, and I've been around through the whole process of the mismatch between the creator and her audience becoming more and more apparent, and at this point it's come to a head, and there's really no going back. And it pains me to say that. It pains me to say that one of the people that inspired me early on is somebody that we are likely not going to redeem, who does not want our redemption in any way. Leftist Mafia just raided. Oh, is it more than? But regardless, glad to have you with us, Matt. I hope you had a good stream, if you're even awake, because I know it is pretty late where you are over there on the East Coast. But glad to have you and your chat with us tonight to go over this. If Irene, if you haven't sent her video voting Contrapoints, it's pretty telling. Oh, if you haven't seen it, you're saying that we should take a look at that. Yeah, maybe we will. Maybe we will. But yeah, this is kind of a sad moment for me, but we gotta talk about it. So yeah, Contrapoints was in the midst of describing the ineffectiveness, I guess, in her mind, of the pro-Palestinian movement. And I wanted to show you that, like, yeah, she says, 0 Palestinians' lives were saved by virtue of the pro-Palestinian movement. Not one fewer bomb or bullet was fired by the IDF. That's true. And that's fucked up. That is tragic, right? And you don't always have the ability to, stop a terrible injustice like this from being done. That doesn't mean that you should give up. And I feel like I fear that that's where, Natalie is at best, chat, because there's worse stuff coming up here, right? So I wanted to show you, even though, this hasn't changed, I do think she's right. I can't point to a single Palestinian life that was saved because of the movement. I can't point to any action that Israel would have taken that it has not taken, because yeah, it's been fucking, Israel's been on, a terroristic streak. What can I say? Right? That's true. It's just, I don't think that her conclusion's right. So she's drawing from that the movement is useless. And I want to show you how not useless this movement has actually been.
The president is now threatening to arrest Mamdani if he blocks immigration arrests in New York City, something that Mamdani has promised to do. But there is a lot more questions about, as he is now continuing to campaign, that Mamdani is also facing continued and serious questions about his stance on Israel. CNN's Harry Anton is joining me now and is running the numbers on this, taking this and looking also more broadly, because it speaks to the broader views in Democratic politics specifically, also speak to what's going on with Mamdani and this race for mayor in New York City.
Yeah, absolutely true. I mean,
oh, it looks like we missed a super chat because of the raids. Let me, everybody, we're shouting out Mike from the Humanist Report. I may not have even got, oh, there we go. Yeah, the Humanist Report raided, and Matt Bender raided. So yeah, we're getting raided by several leftist mafia stream, and we're glad to have them. Matt and Mike are great creators that I've learned a lot from. If you want to go follow Matt, his the place where he shines is at exposing the scam economy, crypto, AI, and all the rest, which has become like more and more important since he started covering it, right? So definitely go give Matt a follow if you haven't already. Mike from the Humanist Report, one of my favorite content creators, somebody that I...
Davy Cliff super chatted $19.99. This is just genuinely gross. I totally respect the desire for political safety Natalie wants, but then why wedge out and promote hatred towards Muslims because you believe they've caused you to lose? It's called solidarity.
It's called solidarity. There we go. There we go. And it sucks that so many people don't get that. It sucks that so much of the stuff that it was important to the left, historically, has been fucking memory hold. It sucks how much they've erased our consciousness, our class consciousness, and everything that stems from that. And yeah, if you want a basis of solidarity, you need that historical memory that we're kind of missing, right? But yeah, thank you, Davi, for the super chat. And there's another super chat that I think wait, which one did I miss? I want to read out the one that we were getting a raid at the same time. I guess it only does one notification at once. I remember when I went to Jordan as a kid, I saw a Palestinian refugee. Here, let me, is this? Yeah, there we go. I remember when I went to Jordan as a kid and I saw the Palestinian refugees. It was one of the most heartbreaking sights I've ever seen. I cannot forget when they struck the hospital in Iran weeks ago. This isn't media analysis. This is real. And that's what I feel like is missing from, Natalie's media analysis or fucking, effort post on Reddit is a deep, and I understand why it's hard to deal with, right? It was hard for me to stream the day after, October 7th. It's hard for me to talk about like what's happening in Palestine. Like it doesn't take much for me to get really fucking emotional about this stuff, right? But it's too important to be silent. And I really wish that we could have gotten. I really wish that Natalie breaking her silence had not been like this. This is like a not like this moment, right? But yeah, go follow Mike from the Humanist Report if you haven't already. He covers he covers news events in a way that I think really has a lot of heart in it, and that I appreciate, and is thorough. And a lot of times, I'll find something that I missed about an issue from watching Mike's content. A lot of times I'll find an issue that I wasn't even aware of from watching Matt's content. So Matt Bender, Mike Figueredo from the Humanist Report, go follow them if you're not already. All right, let's
Look, Andrew Cuomo during the primary attacked Mamdani as being insufficiently pro-Israel. I'm not quite sure the former governor understood how much the politics have changed around this issue among Democrats. What are we talking about here? All right, who Democrats sympathize more?
So Natalie says nothing's changed. What's changed is I don't know. I feel like, look, do I wish that somehow, like, the genocide could have been stopped or at least slowed? Yes, absolutely. Omega Star says, Natalie wants you to understand how upset she feels when she makes the statement. Yeah, and how upset she is that we forced her to make a statement as well, unfortunately. Thank you for the super chat, Omega. I think we're at 175 now, although I could be wrong. Feel free to correct me if that's the case. Sometimes all you can change is people's hearts, right? And that might not feel very satisfying when there's people dying by the tens of thousands and hundreds of thousands. But it is a first step that you've got to take if you want to change the future. And that's what I want us to concentrate on. Totally ridiculous to say nothing's changed. I agree. 185 is what I should have it as. Okay, thank you, Narwhal. 185. There we go. All right. It's butterfly o'clock. It is indeed. Thank you for reminding me. I was about to put the butterfly in and then I got distracted, but let's make it happen.
With Israelis or Palestinians. In 2017, the Democratic Party was a pro-Israeli party. Look at this. They sympathized with the Israelis by 13 points, more with the Israelis than the Palestinians. But look at this sea change. Now Democrats sympathize more with the Palestinians by 43 points. Oh my God, that is a change in the margin of 56 points over the course of just 8 years. So all of a sudden, it's the pro-Palestinian position that actually reigns supreme in Democratic politics, not the Israeli position. And that is part of the reason why Mamdani was able.
And I got to say, the change, he's not going to show you anything past like a Democratic viewer, Democratic voters and how their opinion and their sympathies have changed, right? But trust that it is more than just Democratic voters, all right?
Will do so well in this primary because those attacks over Israel, simply put, did not ring true for Democrats. They're now on the side of the Palestinians, not the Israelis.
I mean, this is a much bigger issue, specifically with Mamdani, though. I mean, an outspoken critic of Israel. He's facing continued criticism, though, for not being outspoken enough
Debbie
against
super chatted $9.99. I think they're going so intense and for long this time because something has changed. They understand this is their last
chance.
To make a big push.
Oh
It's
yeah,
dark, but they know this is lost.
yeah. No, their push isn't just in Palestine, or it's not just in Gaza. It's not just in Palestine, Gaza, and the West Bank, right? It's they're pushing they've pushed Lebanon, they've pushed Syria. And they've pushed Iran as well. So yeah, I think you're right. They're trying to fully. I mean, what they seem to want regime change in Israel, and they better be damn careful. They're gonna be be careful what you wish for, right? Because regime change in Iran, I think, would probably be towards a regime which was pro development of nuclear weapons. That's what people are talking about in Iran right now. They have noticed that the countries that had nukes that were on the axis of evil did not get attacked and are getting treated actually pretty damn well by Trump in the case of North Korea. And that, yeah, the countries that did not have nukes are getting fucked over. Right. So yeah, this is just fucking their actions may very well be their undoing in the long term, and certainly in terms of their public relations effort.
Anti-Semitism, that is for sure. But on this, talk about Democrats and how broadly how this really is shifting.
Yeah, so you see this among Democrats overall, right? But we know that Mamdani's base was younger voters within the Democratic Party, and so I want to break it down
with younger Democrats.
Correct. So take a look here. Who age 18 to 49 Democrats sympathize more with, the Israelis or the Palestinians? Again, in 2017, younger Democrats sympathize more with the Israelis by 14 points. Look at this shift now. Palestinians, they sympathize more with the Palestinians by 57 points. That is an over 70-point shift in the margin in just a matter of 8 years. So the bottom line is, Mamdani's base within the Democratic Party and the base of the Democratic Party of younger voters, younger Democrats, have changed tremendously on this issue in 8 years' time. I rarely ever see shifts like this, Kate, in which you see one side of the equation leading by 14 points 8 years ago, and then all of a sudden the other side of the equation leading by 57 points. The bottom line is the politics around the Israelis and the Palestinians have shifted tremendously among Democrats, and they've shifted specifically tremendously among Democrats who are under the age of 50, younger Democrats who are Mamdani's base, and also the base of Democratic socialists like himself, like Bernie Sanders, like AOC. They have just shifted more so than I think that anyone could possibly have imagined, say, 8 years ago.
Yeah. Harry, thank you so much for taking a real closer look at Democratic politics and how you're seeing that shift transition. It's good to see you. Thank you.
Nice to see you.
John.
Right with us now, Axiom.
Wait, do they just always go to a panel after like every? I've noticed this about CNN lately. After every single segment, it seems like they throw it to a panel.
Senior contributor Margaret Talev and Spectrum News political anchor and host of the Big Deal podcast, Errol Lewis. I want to take a tangent.
Okay, at least it's not the horrible panel that I was afraid they were going to throw it to.
to that discussion right there. I still want to talk about Zohran Mamdani, the Democratic nominee to be mayor of New York City, but I want to focus on a little bit of an exchange he has had with President Trump, because President Trump yesterday was asked what would happen if Mamdani stood in the way of ICE arresting undocumented immigrants or apprehending undocumented immigrants in New York City.
Actually, I don't think that we need to watch this right now. Let's get back to let me finish the Reddit post by Natalie here. Okay, so she says 0 Palestinian lives were saved. Not one fewer bomb or bullet was fired by the IDF. It may have slightly contributed to the re-election of Trump. What might have? The focus on Palestine? Honestly, chat, I don't feel like it's been single-minded enough. I mean, obviously there's other stuff going on, and including other genocides going on. They're not, they don't have the what they're lacking though is the element that the United States is funding the genocide. Although isn't Israel involved in what's going on in the Congo? Anyway, might have slightly contributed to the re-election of Trump, guaranteed that the U.S. will put no diplomatic pressure on Netanyahu for at least 4 years, and making protests against Israel both much riskier and less effective. What the fuck? So we should have, forgotten about what was going on? Just left it when there was, 30,000, 40,000 dead and just assumed glad that's over when it's not in no way over. Honestly, Natalie, that's the one thing that might have caused, Israel, I feel like less attention on Palestine may have enabled Israel to do more and to, ultimately what they're after here is, like I said, at best an ethnic cleansing of Gaza, and at worst, just mass slaughter. And yeah, it's I don't think taking your eye, getting distracted by electoral politics, although obviously, it has consequences that have caused me to leave the country that I love and all my friends and all my family behind, and move across the world to a place where I don't even speak the language, right? So I don't want to underestimate, obviously the, consequences of the election are huge as well, but I just don't. And we got to stop seeing this shit as either or. Might have slightly contributed to the re-election of Trump, guaranteeing the U.S. will put no diplomatic pressure on Netanyahu. See, here's where you're wish casting, right? You would like to think that Biden has changed, right? From the guy that said, Israel ride or die. If Israel didn't exist, we'd have to invent it, right? To a guy who maybe saw a few pictures of dead Palestinian children and, is secretly of the opinion that we got to stop what's going on, right? I'm going to put I just got to get reelected, Jack, and then I'll put all the diplomatic pressure in the world on Netanyahu. That bear hug will turn into a bear crush, and we'll force it out of him. We'll force the empathy into Netanyahu, right? I don't see that. I don't fucking see that. And it's an unknown. We'll never know. We'll never know. How different would Biden have been, had he somehow avoided embarrassing himself on the debate stage and gotten reelected? How different would Kamala Harris have been on this issue had she been elected, right? If she's got a difference with Biden, she's holding those cards so close to her chest that we can't see them. So it's an unknown and it's an unknowable. We will never know what a Harris administration would have looked like for Gaza. All right. Making protests against Israel much riskier and less effective. Trump is also, I don't think they're getting less effective. They are definitely more risky. Trump is also incidentally a menace to me and basically everyone I care about. Yeah, that's why I left the fucking country. A perfectly enlightened being would feel no bitterness. You feel bitterness towards what, the pro-Palestinian movement? You're blaming the pro-Palestinian movement for the fact that my fucking passport misgenders me? look, I don't fucking like that. I don't like having to leave my life behind and start a new one. I would never compare what I've gone through to the experience of someone in Palestine, though. It's on another level. It's not comparable. None of this is the fault of Palestinians, of course, but the answer is not that we to choose between caring about trans people or Palestinians. The answer is to have solidarity and to care about both. The answer is to be there for each other. And that is a virtuous cycle where people are more likely to be there for you. First of all, because they might be alive, right? Like that famous poem about the Holocaust, right? If you don't stand up and say something when it doesn't involve you, there are going to be less people even alive to possibly stand up and say something when they come for you. None of this is the fault of Palestinians either. Of course, we're going to blame the online left, right? Is that what we're doing? Who are overwhelmingly victims here. I hope that someday American policy will shift in their favor, and I will continue to support that cause. TLDR, I see the situation as bleak, intractable, extremely divisive, and devoid of any element that could be appropriately transformed.
$9.99. What pressure? Biden is their top soldier in the USA, and I personally know someone WHO used to work with BLINKEN and HES, not any better. There is no difference here, never been in the past.
Yes, sadly, as many differences as you could find between Biden and Trump, which, policy, like, I mean, where do I even start? Like, no Project 2025 under Biden, right? But in terms of this, issue, yeah, you just can't point to anything where you're like, oh no, Biden would clearly be better on this than or Kamala. Yeah, this is the problem. These are the we cannot continue to elect these people, right? If you elect people who are gonna enable a genocide, then what do you expect the result of that to be? Anyway, thank you for the super chat, Davy. Let's see, where was I? I see the situation as bleak, intractable, extremely divisive, devoid of any element that could be appropriately transformed into political entertainment. That I agree with. And if what she wants to look, if she had begun and ended her post with like, what Contrapoints is like. I pour milk over Jordan Peterson in a bathtub. What part of that do you think is applicable to the current genocide that's going on? If that's what Natalie said, fine, good point. Maybe we don't want a Contrapoints video, with any Contrapoints, any video that Contrapoints would make, about Palestine it would have to be completely different than almost everything she's done before in order to be in any way effective, right? So what we know of Contrapoints videos maybe not appropriate for this subject. I can totally get on board with that, but the rest of what she's saying is utter self-centered tripe. Hopefully it goes without saying that these are just my thoughts. I'm sure other bread tubers have different opinions. I'm sure they do. And some of them have been, missing in action as well. Not all of them. Some of them have done fundraisers and I'm not trying to paint with a broad brush on BreadTube, although I really do think its influence is kind of over. So chat, with that, we get to the response. And the responder that Dexterdonox here has brought up is our good friend, Ethan Klein. Thank you, Ethan Klein. Ethan says, thank you, Contrapoints. It's important to remind people that there is a space for being anti-genocide without doing anything about the genocide, being anti-genocide, pro-Palestine, but be against annihilating Israel. Oh yeah, that's right. Fucking straw man more, Ethan. It is my belief that any lasting peace must have two elements: Palestinians, self-determination, but not too much self-determination, and secure borders for Israel. Without both, peace fails. Many leftists would what scenario do self-determination for Palestine means that they get to open a port. What makes you think that Israel would ever let that happen? Israel's not concerned with its borders. It's concerned with its borders and more so with Palestine's borders. Like, this was the part of the ceasefire was the whole question of the Philadelphia corridor, which is technically, I don't know if it's like neutral territory between Egypt and Israel or just straight up Egypt, right? But yeah, they wanted to place soldiers, on the southern border of Palestine, right? This is the ceasefire didn't even hold. Many leftists would rather focus on purity tests. Oh my God, purity tests. It's a fucking major red flag, somebody that bitches about purity tests, right? Ethan Klein, this is something that you and Vosh have in common. Pray that I do not figure other things that you have in common to talk about, and social credits that having a meaningful and realistic conversation about creating a lasting peace. The reaction to your post will prove my point, unfortunately. Fuck you. Get fucked, Ethan Klein. All right, so there we go. That is the post. Now I should probably talk to chat and figure out how wrong. I'm thinking this number is higher now. I know we're at least at 195. I'm gonna scan to see if there's any. Because Project 2025, you Palestinians get what you deserve. Natalie Wynn, 71025 says Dave. Katie Halper has interviewed multiple queer Palestinians, by the way. Yeah, let's not forget that when you're dropping those Israeli bombs don't only, they don't skip queer Palestinians. They don't skip trans Palestinians. They don't. Okay, so Narwhal said 105. Oh God, that was a while ago, wasn't it? Let's see if we can scroll down. Jesse Gender is a non-binary trans femme like me, says Roxy Abused. Best thing Ethan could 205. Thank you. That's two bonus topics secured. 205 out of. And if we hit 300, I will stick around for 3 bonus topics instead of just 2. Thank you, Buffy Geek. Participation trophy world. So just trying to catch up with chat here before we get into some more of the reaction. I think Hasan has put out a video. Ethan Klein loves her posts because she said, oh yeah, it's like I said, it's very in line with what Ethan has been saying. So the niche that he's trying to carve out for himself as the friendly Zionist or something, it's very much in line with what Natalie's doing here. It's centering on his own grievance. That's how Ethan Klein relates to genocide as well. True, ever expanding borders of Israel. Davy Cliff, I voted for Kamala, even though I felt in my bones, they would attack Iran, that they would attack my own family. That is one of the most humiliating and degrading, the most humiliated and degraded I've ever felt. Is that not enough? They make these liberal Zionists, they make assumptions about people on the other side being non-pragmatic to an absurd degree, and it's just not reflected in reality. But there is a reality by which you turn people's stomachs the more you enable genocide. And yet there are some groups of people that are more locked into what's going on in Israel than others, right? That if you have family, like Davy just mentioned, if you have family that are that are going to be affected by this, like, right, it's a whole another thing for you, and browbeating that person into voting for Kamala Harris when she refuses to even make even an effort, even a fucking virtue signal in the direction of stopping what's going on, is just like, it's such a fail policy. It's such a fail. It's just not an appeal that's ever gonna fucking work. It's just gonna backfire on you. I couldn't have cared less about Contrapoints' take on Palestine. She's centering her own feelings of grievance right from the start of the post. She's no better than Ethan Klein. Yeah, pretty much in the same like sort of, pretty much of the same opinion. She's pretty much in solidarity with Ethan about this. Natalie could maybe go after Israeli leaders like Netanyahu the same way she went after people like Jordan Peterson. Not that complicated. Well, I don't know. General public, I gotta say that maybe she has a point that, and only she's Contrapoints, right? I'm not Contrapoints, you're not Contrapoints, right? She's the creativity behind the YouTube channel, right? And she says that her technique of video making is not appropriate for this subject. That's the one thing that she said that I kind of agree on, right? The example she gave was getting in the bathtub with a Netanyahu mannequin and pouring milk on it, like she did with Jordan Peterson, right? It's not, like that kind of whimsy that is part of her creative process, part of her videos, may not be appropriate for, and only she knows if she can do a Contrapoints video about a certain subject. That being said, if she did a Contrapoints video about this subject, I don't think we'd like it. I think it would be a very look at what she'd be. This is her opinion. This is how she feels, right? Very much centering. And yeah, we would get a video centering Contrapoints' feelings on the issue, rather than the issue itself, right? So maybe we're better off without a Contrapoints video on this subject. But she could have at least, people were wanting her to at least say something. People still say Kamala is secretly progressive. We'll never know. The sad fact is we'll never know. And part of the reason we'll never know is because Kamala's pragmatism in holding her cards so close to her chest on issues like this, and actually, if she's showing any cards, they're the cards of, like, we're going to support Israel, we're going to be there for Israel no matter what, and we're going to have the most deadly military, the most lethal military, right? The cards she was showing do not bode well for a Harris administration, at least as far as foreign policy goes. $2.10? Okay, wait, did I... So yeah, that's what I do. I read off a Reddit effort post that makes me upset and sad in all kinds of ways, and then I put myself back on the big screen again to talk to chat. Hopefully I can keep my tears at bay for this one. Yeah, Harris is definitely a communist. She's a Maoist, right? She's definitely... She didn't need to make this wedge, though. She's just giving liberal Zionists an excuse. This is just giving the right what they want. Yeah, giving the right, giving useless, worthless liberals like Ethan Klein more breathing room. All her cards were neoliberal, says Kaylala. Oh, was I read it? Did I read a chatter's comment? Harris is communist. No, I think that was sarcastic. That chatter was being sarcastic. I'm pretty sure. Kamala had a choice to be progressive. She chose not to be progressive. Yeah, and she would say for pragmatism. However, I think it she showed that not to be pragmatic. How many times do I have to teach you this lesson, old man? That's how I feel towards the Democratic establishment. Every single time they're like, no, you stupid young people. You don't know how to be pragmatic. You don't know how to win elections. Let me show you, hold my beer. And they fucking lose to Trump. They lost twice to one of the most flawed candidates in the history of the country, in the history of politics, right? That is no small feat either. And you could say in 2016 they had a historically unpopular candidate that they were running, but they showed they could lose to Trump even without Hillary. Content poop, Ethan Klein, good video. Thank you, Alejandro. I'm glad you mentioned that. It's a little off subject, but yeah, bad empanada. Apparently, as I was making the bonus content poll, I was realizing that there's probably I felt like I had seen other videos that I should have put on there. Yeah, the content poop is one of those. We may not have time though. The content poop is like a 2-hour long video, I think. So we may have to get to that tomorrow. But it is on my agenda. Edwin Rollins, if she had made a video, she probably would have done something like awful, like have Tabby be an insulting character. Yeah, Tabby with a watermelon. That's right. Insulting caricature of supposedly unreasonable anti-Zionists. Yeah. Have Tabby accidentally being, anti-Semitic. When it's funny, because right, in terms of accidental anti-Semitism, Contrapoints has been criticized for the reptiles when she had a segment in one of her videos about the idea that reptiles run the world, that all the world leaders are secretly reptilians, which is a anti-Semitic conspiracy. And she even put out I think she had merch that said ruled by reptiles or something. Now people called her out for this, as well. And so, she's been on the other side of being criticized for stepping on a rake of anti-Semitic tropes. That's how she sounded in her voting video. Yeah, maybe we'll get... Somebody said the voting video. Is that the one that people were saying I should take a look at? We'll see how much time we have. But there may be a few Contrapoints videos that... You can't be pragmatic when people are being slaughtered daily. Humanity is more important. Her father is a communist, not was. Dude is 86. I don't know anything about her family.
Super chatted $9.99. Biden had literally 30% approval, the only Dem who didn't pretend to be progressive, and one was Bill, and that's only because Perot split the vote. This has literally never actually worked.
Yeah. That's a great analysis, right? The only counterexample you have is Bill Clinton in 1992, and that is not an example that you can conflate with what's going on now, unless somehow Elon Musk does get the America Party off the ground, and instead of just running it to try to secure 5 Congress seats and 1 or 2 Senate seats, actually run somebody for president, right? It's just not, you can't really compare the situations, right? Yeah. Clinton had a popular and wealthy opponent on an independent opponent in H. Ross Perot. Contrapoints and Ethan. Yeah, so the TLDR is for the loser liberals that have run the party since Reagan. What have you ever actually done? What have you ever actually done? You rallied around the flag and glazed up George W. Bush's flagpole. You got handed a win from Ross Perot. What have you actually... And then you found a way to lose to Trump twice, right? And honestly, in terms of Biden's victory in 2000, I don't credit Biden or the Democratic establishment with that. I credit the protest movement. The fact that people were so mobilized, so activated back then, was probably more responsible for Biden's victory in 2000 than anything that Biden did. Contrapoints and Ethan always think that you have to be pragmatic about genocide against the Palestinian people and just not speak about it at all. Yeah, like as if you really cared about the Palestinian people, you wouldn't talk about them. Oh, Ross Perot and Bob Dole was his Republican opponent in 1996. They're literally just always doing the letter from They're literally being MLK's white liberals. I'm against segregation, but what do you have to protest? But do you have to protest like that? Can't you just wait? Can't you just defer your dream until it explodes? Yeah, that's a great idea. Kamala, most lethal joy. That's so, oh my God. I wish I knew what was going on during that campaign. Right? The difference between what I interpreted as Kamala's instincts, I don't know what they were, but her first moves, right? Selecting Waltz, her way of engaging, honestly, with Donald Trump and her detractors was pretty refreshing too, compared to, Hillary's rhetoric. And then, then they bring the Biden people into her campaign, and from then on, it just utterly crashes and burns. And yet they want to blame trans people. A trans person played a sport. That's why we lost, right? We got to be meaner to trans people. Then we'll win, right? Voter shaming isn't helpful. It isn't. It makes people double down, if nothing else, right? And also, the voter you're shaming, maybe you should be listening to a little bit. Anyway, chat. So like I said, we got a lot of responses to ContraPoints. I guess we could look at some of those on... Just get a feel of what's out there. I mean, yeah, a lot of people just disenchanted. A lot of Contra fans kind of just disappointed, disenchanted. ContraPoints when she sees modern Oh, I wish I could show you what this... I mean, this is a Breaking Bad clip, so... Oh, this is from the post about Rathbone, that there was... I guess she and Taylor Lorenz went back and forth on that a little bit. What is this? ContraPoints subreddit is one of the bleakest. I've seen nuclear levels of parasocial sycophancy, I think it is. But they do talk really funny. What do they still use her old memes and stuff? Perfectly put, if the left wants to pursue political efficacy, they are behooved to abandon... This strikes me as a person that's like, enriching their word power. They are behooved to abandon this kind of dualism and return to the sole message of class struggle. Do this, invite the shitlibs and filthy centrists into your tent, match or exceed MAGA's ability to manifest collective action from... These people they never know what they're talking about. Like, it's the worst, like, theorizing of how politics, like, can work, right? Match or exceed MAGA's ability to manifest collective action from a coalition of political factions. That is how they graduate from theater to politics. Okay, they must be answering a question that they cast the online left or cast the left as hopeless theater kids, I'm guessing. Amazing things happening right now on our ContraPoints. sometimes I'd like to add.
Davy Cliff super chatted $9.99. Waltz was selected for loyalty. Sharipo was one of the first governors to say Biden to drop because he wanted Runter and
okay.
the governor committee to have him stay, and it was just rewarding him.
I didn't even pay attention to Waltz's. I guess I wasn't really aware of Waltz until he was elected. But Davy's saying that Waltz didn't put pressure on Biden to drop out. Remember when ContraPoints platformed the Golden One? A literal fascist because he was yoked? Wait, did she platform him or did she make fun of him? I can't remember. She deleted that? She deleted her Golden One video? She was like kind of thirsting after him, I guess. Is that what you mean? I thought it was a joke, though. I thought that the joke was that the Golden One is obviously trying to impress people with his physique, but he wouldn't be enamored to a trans woman being attracted to him or something like that. I thought that was. It's been a while though. Also, I think the right's nanny state stereotype of Dems just helped during a mass pandemic. Oh yeah, Davy, if you're saying that you think that the fact that Trump, unlike Biden or almost any Democrat, made goddamn sure that his name was on those STEMI checks, right? That you knew that was coming from. There are people who voted for Trump specifically because they got a stimulus check during the pandemic, and that is literally the kind of shit that the Democratic Party, the post-New Deal consensus, she was on his videos too. Oh my God, I never saw that. That's wild. Yeah, people think that the Golden One is like, they treat him like he's tame almost, right? That because he's hard to take seriously because he's such a goofy like himbo, but he's also a goofy fascist himbo, and I think that's what people neglect, is that like we are talking about an actual fucking fascist here in the Golden One. He's not playing around. He's not memeing. He's not in on the joke. He is 100%. In fact, you could even look at the Golden One as a little bit of a precursor to some of the influencers like oh my God, what's his fuck? Bronze Age pervert, obviously intellectually miles apart, but kind of using the same appeal, including a little bit of a strange homoerotic appeal that is somehow some kind of a new meta in the right wing. If you started watching Contra in 2020, you missed her doing insane right wing shit, like her putting on a Nazi uniform. No, Erica, I remember well. And this was when it was very unpopular to criticize Contra, but I had some real questions, right? If you so she had a character named Fritz, right? Fritz was a Nazi, and when she'd talk about the alt-right, she would put on like some Nazi stuff and be like, yes, my name is Fritz, and I love the, yada, right? And at some point, when she transitioned, I think Fritz transitioned to Freya, and Freya was like an alt-right trans woman, right? But yeah, she had to buy like a whole, ass getup, like a whole outfit, to be to do the Nazi character. And at that point, you're like, wait, where are you buying this Nazi stuff from, Contra? Where are you getting this Nazi stuff, right? Because look, here's my thought. Very likely, the people that sell Nazi paraphernalia or Nazi fashion are probably going to be Nazis themselves, right? So I don't know. Is it worth it? Hasan did wear a MAGA hat. That's true. I wonder where he sourced that from. She was a debate bro and lost to fascists. Oh yeah, she debated like what Blair White, is that right? Yeah, it's been a while. But anyway, yeah. So not a lot of people on Twitter are super happy with what either Contra or Ethan are saying right now. That is cold comfort, but some comfort nonetheless. No diplomatic pressure on Netanyahu. So she means exactly like Biden did for over a fucking year. Centrist liberals are the most politically useless motherfuckers in the world, and Contrapoints is a genocide obfuscating Zionist bastard. Wow. Oh yeah. A lot has come out about the Biden administration and Blinken and all the rest. The Palestinians risked and sacrificed enormously to document the atrocities being committed against them because otherwise people like Contrapoints would deny them. Every public statement Contrapoints makes for some reason is like the Simpsons reporter saying, this reporter places the blame for all this squarely on you, the viewers. Okay, so yeah, that's what Twitter looks like right now. It is not a pretty picture for Contrapoints. Obviously, her subreddit is still, very much her subreddit and very much parasocially attached to her. Ethan Klein is happy. Wait, what did I read all of this one? Something I'd like to add is that personally I find the focus on labeling it a genocide makes it harder to build stronger coalitions. I don't need somebody to consider. Look, I've always said I don't care what you call it as long as you say it's wrong and it needs to stop, and we need to do everything in our power to get the United States to stop arming whatever you want to call it, if not a genocide, right? Obviously, I think it is a genocide, and denying that's pretty fucking ridiculous, but I am more concerned about the action step than I am about the definitions of things, right? I need them to consider it wrong and unjust and horrifying and worth fighting against. While I might not be happy if we disagree beyond that, I can live with it if we make meaningful change. Something I have but you've already fallen out, this person on Reddit, you've already fallen out of community with the people that would be your allies for this, right? You already consider, ironically enough, you talking about purity testing right here. You're the one doing purity testing, and you've tested the pro-Palestine movement, and you found it insufficiently pure. So please miss me with that garbage that you're projecting on other people. I posted a similar comment, says this Redditor. The label flattens the discourse. It allows any means to ends. See the difference between I've already said I'm not hung up on definitions. I'm hung up on actions, right? But I mean, this is just an excuse for these fuckers, right? To not do what they know, what they should know is right. It allows anything short of the genocide to be completely completed as a victory, regardless. What a load of shit. Regardless if there's any actual change in the future, the label doesn't change what's happening. It doesn't change how we should seek to end the conflict through diplomacy, of course, and not cutting off weapons, maybe. I don't know. The only people who benefit are extremists whose power, extremists on both sides, whatever. Let's, wow. So, oh shit, I was still reading off. I hadn't switched over to this yet. It doesn't matter though, chat. It doesn't matter because we got this to watch too. They talk about broad coalition, then immediately attack anyone to their left. Exactly, Martian. Crotchy, I talk to centrists who literally say they care about human rights way more than me, and not that difficult yet. Equivocate between Palestinian suffering and Israeli population. You can't discuss deleted tweets on her subreddit. Yeah, she just deletes them from reality. I'm at 230. Thank you for updating that. So we're at 230 out of 300. That means, chat, that I'll be covering the at least the top two topics right now, we got a strong Vox Populi going, which makes it more likely for the voters to get what they want. Oh, look at that. We're tied. Actually, Trump, MAGA, and Epstein and Elon is in first place. Oh, chat, it's so close. The whole, oh my God, I made an actual balanced bonus content poll, right? So first place, Trump, MAGA, Elon, and Epstein. Second place, H3 fans report Adam McIntyre to ICE. Third place, Brett Cooper calls out Hasan. Fourth place, Francesca on Don Lemon. So like I said about this number to the side here, that is the bonus number. If we get to 100, then I cover the top topic by your votes and the effect of the donations. Although this time, most of the effect of the donation is just to reinforce the poll itself. And if we get to 200, I cover the top two. So right now we're in line to watch both Trump, MAGA, Epstein, and Elon, which I've been meaning to get to for a long time, and H3 fans report Adam McIntyre to ICE. And then very close, like one point behind that. Now that Adam McIntyre is ahead, right? It keeps on going back and forth, right? Third place is Brett Cooper calls out Hasan, and fourth place is Francesca, but there's only 4 points separating the top subject from the top topic from the bottom topic. So make sure you get over to YouTube and make your voice heard, because your vote could change everything today, right? Your vote is extremely important today, and I want to see what people think. So if you haven't voted already, now's your chance to get over there. Look at that; it's just tightening up once again. Amazing how tight this poll is. Anyway, Hasan had something to say about this, and I'm going to watch that and probably get to the bonus content after that, just so I have time, because we're going to be covering at least 2, if not 3 subjects. Right now we're at 230 out of 300. If we get to 300, we'll cover the top 3 subjects, right? And that is entirely possible at this point. So let's take a look and see what Hasan had to say about this mess that we have found ourselves in with Contrapoints.
Crazy, a shameful statement. I cannot believe that Natalie typed this out, read it through, made sure there were no grammatical errors, and then thought that this was good to publish. What's going on with Contrapoints? Yeah, I'm a.
Think Hasan will mind if I pee during his segment? Here, chat. We won't do a chair stream. We'll do a Waluigi stream. Let me put him on, because I really gotta dehydrate my bladder.
Briefly touch on that as well, because I mean, I said this like a while back, where I was like, listen, this is not for like any person. I said this on my Discord a while back, where I was like, now that it's becoming more like acceptable and appropriate for a lot of people who are terrified of their quote unquote brand being associated or tarnished in any capacity with like Israel-Palestine stuff, you'll see a lot more people like openly reveal takes, okay, openly say what their points are. And I think, I mean, something I said back then, this was like months ago, was if you come out after like, 20 months of, or 18 months at the time, I think it was, of like genocide, to like make a statement, and your statement revolves around like how all of these people that were correct from the start are actually evil and bad or whatever, and that your feelings really matter in this process. Like, if you come out and do any of that like wishy-washy or if you come out and do any of this like both sides are kind of bad type bullshit when you're talking about like free Palestine, the genocide that is happening, then I'm gonna talk about it, okay? And that's basically, it's sad to see, but that's basically what Contrapoints did, like to a T almost, okay? And I like Contrapoints. I've never had any issues with her. I don't really care about like all the other controversies that she's been in or whatever. You know what I mean? For those of you who don't know, Contrapoints is a bread tuber. She was one of the OG bread tubers. Like, she would make these really long, well thought out YouTube video essays, bisexual lighting, all of that, right? And she had been, I guess, noticeably absent. I don't really run around being like, why is my favorite YouTuber not saying anything about this issue or that issue or whatever. I mean, it is odd when like you're a political content creator, or you have major political opinions be known, and you don't really say anything about like perhaps one of the most significant, one of the most significant, one of the most impactful global incidents, a genocide that is unfolding in real time. It is odd, but I never was like, why won't you say anything? Right. And I guess people were doing that a lot. And so she did, she came out and like released something, not on Twitter, mind you, but instead on Reddit, which is, I guess, like a less hostile space to reveal this kind of thing. There are a multitude of different reasons as to why people don't speak out about the genocide that is unfolding in front of our eyes. For many content creators who like understand the violence that is happening, they might be worried about the bag, for example. For some others, they're worried about the saying something wrong and then being like ridiculed or bullied or attacked, which is part of the reason why they will just say, oh yeah, free Palestine, and then they move on, right? Or like they rarely ever engage in this kind of stuff because it is supposed to be a third rail. It was considered the third rail of politics by design for a very long time, right? They don't want to get like, they don't want people to go after their advertisers. Why are people so afraid? What do you mean? Look at me. Look at me. Look at me. I've spent most of my professional career combating anti-Semitism and still do to this day. And it's like not even a question. Like people will just immediately be like, he's an anti-Semite. He's a terrorist. Take his money away. Deplatform him. Don't put him on any news outlets. Like what the no one should watch him. Why do people watch him? Like people get really vicious. There are entire networks organized around like doing this kind of like horrible thing, right? They will turn people into pariahs, right? By design. That is the point. That is the purpose, right? You get put on a list and then people will actively come after you to try to like ruin your livelihood. But in any case, that's like part of the reason why a lot of people are afraid of it, because it's like the real type of cancel culture, right? It's not like cancel culture because you like said something that was up when you were like a teenager and now people are unearthing that and like yelling at you over it, like, but it's gonna go away in like a week. I'm talking like real cancel culture, like you're not allowed to, you get charged with terrorism like Kneecap did, or they won't let you advertise your band in the London metro stations like Kneecap did, or you get put on a list and then you have prominent civil rights groups like the ADL routinely coming after you in mainstream media and just like smearing you because who the fuck's going to say anything? Who's going to push back? You get your visas canceled. Like those are the real impactful, real consequential cancel culture shits, right? Not like a bunch of people on Twitter yelled at you for whatever you said back in the day. And I think that that's a real reason why a lot of people don't say anything. But Natalie is a smart person, like a much smarter, much better thought out person than these people that I'm talking about. She's not like a random influencer that otherwise does like makeup blogs or whatever. And that's the reason why she's like trying to avoid controversy, because she doesn't want to get her like Lush sponsorship taken away from her. This is a political essayist, right? So I think I get.
Chat, what is Lush? Like, I'm not even sure, like, honestly, like, what are people sponsoring of a creator that puts out content maybe once every year? What is her, anybody know? It's cosmetics? I mean, I guess she's still doing live streams. I guess that must be where the sponsorship happens. I haven't watched her stream in a long time.
Yes, and I didn't like look too deeply into this at all, but I guess like the reason why she didn't say anything about this for a very long time was because, and by her own admission, it was because you won't like what she has to say. She was a PhD candidate in philosophy before YouTube. I know. It was just, I will say this much. As someone who really appreciates Contrapoints' perspective, as someone who has collaborated with her, someone who's talked to her, someone who's met her, I will say I'm disappointed. Okay, it's. I know that everyone will say I told you so, whatever, but like it's it still sucks. Okay? It still sucks. And maybe some people will say, what's wrong with her response? She didn't say anything wrong. Right? And I think
wait, Amanda, at first I thought you were advertising. Wait, what are you saying? It's cosmetics. They do bath bombs? Wait, I'm sorry. Are you talking about Contra's sponsor there? I'm just trying to make sure because it looks like advertisement. But I think you were commenting on Lush, right? Am I right? It's like handmade soap or something. Is that what Lush does? Thought it was a cosmetic brand. You can pay $100 for a couple of bath bombs. $100? Oh my god, chat! I love taking bubble baths and shit, but holy shit, $100 for 2? Some shower jelly? Is it really that expensive though? God damn. And here I thought I was living it up, chat, eating fatty melon, dragon fruit, and guava. Right here I thought I had treats, but I guess I know nothing of the shiny things lifestyle. Lush Snow Fairy is my kryptonite? No, not advertised. Okay, I figured that out. For a second, I was like, wait a minute, have I got bath bomb advertisers in here? But luckily I looked at your message history, and there was more to it than that. So I figured you were commenting on the Lush sponsorship. Okay. They used to be a store. You'd see them with these things called malls. I always confused them with lids. I've heard about malls, chat. Have you ever seen those videos where, yeah, there are these like places you can walk through them now. Some of them are still up, but they're like they're falling apart and stuff. There's like water on the floor, like everything is but yeah, the people used to go there to shop back in the day, right? It was like a shop. People would go, like you wouldn't get stuff, like you wouldn't order stuff online. You'd actually go to a place in order
Debbie Cliff super chatted $9.99. Okay, as someone who's met plenty of PhD holders, always remember what they're just a regular person when it comes to literally everything else.
Chat, I was I was like a year away from being a PhD holder myself in the midst of COVID, right? So yeah, it's not that it doesn't, I don't think you get conferred with magic or anything like that. I'm scared of malls. Zombies live in them. Yeah, there are those places like in the videos where the dudes will go through them, and like the oldest view, right? It's like that. It's like that. But they weren't underground. Like that one, that mall is like under like a real mall would be like above ground. And it would be just imagine the oldest view if all the stores were open and not like desiccated and just like in disrepair. They're just like they're actually like actual stores like in this place. That's what a mall was back in the day. You could meet I think you could meet Silent Bob there in the mall, chat. You could go and sit in Silent Bob's lap and tell him what you want for Christmas, and then Jay would smoke you out behind the mall. Like, right? You could hang out with the mall rats, I think, too, in a mall.
Basically crafted a message as to why she had not spoken about this issue that much, with the exception of the limited times that she said stuff about it, was because she couched it in like a hyper focus of whatever the online left is.
My parents would give me $5 for putting the dishes away, so I'd buy Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles or G.I. Joes from KB Toys. Wait, and later a piece of pizza. Wait, you could buy toys and pizza for $5 back then? Malls still exist though? Really? Oh yeah, there's actually one by me. I'm just kidding, chat, of course. There's a mall not far from my house that it's pretty nice.
Is doing, okay? How can you be disappointed in her when she did a friendly collab with Hillary Clinton? Yeah, I didn't really care about that too much. Like, I didn't read too much into it. And I know people will say, well, she did a collaboration with Hillary Clinton. I think like...
Isn't there like a really nice one, or didn't there used to be a really nice one in Minneapolis? There was like a mall with I remember seeing like a mall with a roller coaster.
That just spells that like someone is interested in pushing their platform further. That's what it could be. You know what I mean? Yeah. Dick Sertonox posts, YouTuber Contrapoints has posted her full take. And I'm just going to go through this. YouTuber Contrapoints has posted her full take on Israel to Reddit. Okay. All right. Let's open the image in a new tab because there's so much happening here. There's a lot. It's an effort post. Contrapoints, user Contrapoints. And I think like it's significant that she posted it on Reddit rather than on Twitter because I think she knows like the environment.
She knows.
Like
she would get cooked so hard. Like she'd have right wingers cooking her. That's how bad it would be. And only 70% of them would be coming from an anti-Semitic place. Like 15% from a transphobic place. Well, 15% of them would be like legitimately like, you know, they don't like what's, you know, happening in Gaza. Even right wingers
feel betrayed because I haven't made a video on Palestine. Do they actually want a ContraPoints video on Palestine? Will they be happy if I get in the bath and pour milk on a mannequin of Benjamin Netanyahu? No. I have posted about Gaza occasionally and have quietly given money to Palestinian aid organizations. But I think that what leftists really want is for me to...
Wait, it's Mall of America? Is that the one I'm talking... Is that the Minnesota one with the roller coaster?
Their chorus of anger. They sense some hesitation on my part and are judging me very harshly on my presumed opinions. I'd rather be judged on my actual opinions. So here they are. Is Israel committing a genocide in Gaza? Yes. Do I oppose it? Yes. Do I feel angry about it? Yes. I also feel a lot of other things. I think if she had basically stopped it here, even here, this is like kind of silly to be like, look, I'm a content creator. I talk about a litany of different issues. I've done all of this stuff. Is Israel doing a genocide in Gaza? Yes. Do I oppose it? Yes. Is Israel an apartheid state? Yes. Free Palestine. Boom. It's over. No controversy. Okay. No issue whatsoever. Like, why is this issue being treated as though it is it's annoying or it's inconveniencing?
The thing about ContraPoints is that so much of the trans community was done with her years ago because of her association with trans medicalism. You know, it's weird, right? I saw her do some things that, like, right, she made the video where she like refers to herself as one of the old school, what does she say? Like she's one of the old school transsexuals or something. Like it's a word that like trans meds like to use to differentiate themselves from the run of the mill transgender person, right? It's you know, you're elite if you're a transsexual apparently. Which is funny because it, like, the reason that word was like kind of de-emphasized was because it's like, you know, it was used as almost a slur, but then the trans meds are like, oh no, we want to be called transsexuals. We want to be called transsexuals. And last of the old school transsexuals, is that what she said? She isn't a trans medicalist. Like people are just reading into shit. Well, she just kind of like, here's the deal, like the bad part of trans medicalism is putting is like gatekeeping, like, you know, who is truly trans and not, right? And to be fair, I didn't see that from Natalie, right? I saw some you know, kind of callousness in terms of her maybe not thinking of like, you know, non-binary people, you know, when it comes to pronoun circles, but yeah, the harsh part of trans medicalism, I didn't see her express, but she did. She just kind of picked up some of the language, right, that they use, and to the point, chat, that the trans meds that I dealt with earlier in my career, the trans meds that obsessed about me and harassed me, like they loved ContraPoints. She was like their patron saint. I don't think she was trying to do that. She was definitely transmitted in 2019. I don't know. I mean, she I'll say this, right? That her content, like as a trans creator, I want my content to be content that's not palatable to trans meds, right? Because, you know, they're very elitist. They're very gatekeeping, right? Trans meds like Riley Grace Rochong. yeah, who I guess she was associated with at some point. Yeah, it's when people use transsexual as a word to gatekeep with, right? And start talking about like true trans and all that stuff, right? That's what that's the nasty part of it. But yeah, it's so what I noticed though was that Transmeds like really liked her content, tried to claim her as one of their own. So, you know, as far as what Natalie actually felt in her heart of hearts, I have no idea.
Like, why is this? Like, would we say this about the Holocaust? I mean, plenty of people, I'm sure, they didn't have the full knowledge of the Holocaust when it was happening. But I'm sure plenty of people, if they did, would have a similar opinion back then, right? But it's just so incredibly disingenuous. I have the other half of her statement as well. Don't worry. I have it all. What's frustrating about this entire thing, and I mentioned this before, and I repeated myself last night, and I know everyone was like, oh, is this about Contrapoints? It's like, it's not. It's not just about Contrapoints. This is for everyone. This statement is universal, okay? So before I get to reading the rest of this, the but, and then the post but part of Contrapoint's statement, okay? Here's what my opinion is. This has not changed for the past 2 years at this point. If you are like me, a spoiled child of America, okay? If you live in the heart of empire, and
The RGR Contra lore is wild. Most of it's been deleted by 90%, 99% sure they dated for a second. I heard that too, yeah. And for the full disclosure chat, I've had RGR on my stream a long time ago, before like all of the controversy, before the debate with Demon Mama. They're the plastics of trans. I mean, that's one way to put it. Directive. That's definitely one way to put it. I've never thought of it that way. The plastics, if you don't know, chat, are a group of elitist. They were like the pretty girls table in high school in the movie. Oh my god, what is that movie called? What is that movie called? It's the one where you're trying to make fetch a thing. Somebody help me out here. I don't know why I can't think of this. I know this movie. Theron Meyer. Oh, I forgot about Theron Meyer. Jeez. Helped write a few of her, yeah, definitely a self-hating kind of a content creator there in Theron Meyer. Mean Girls, thank you. Yeah, I was just like, it's that movie about Mean Girls, you know? What is that one called? It's about Mean Girls. It's like the Mean Girls, and they're both RGR and Contra, both are from Baltimore. Well, there are trans content creators there. For the record, chat, RGR, Riley Grace Roshan is who we're talking about here. She hates my guts. RGR, I had her on like a long time ago on Bird Brains, right? And what happened? I'm trying to remember. Where did I piss her off first? It was probably, yeah, she did this. So I had like a friend who there was another content creator that I brought on, and he was right wing, but somewhat more reachable, I guess, than your average right winger. And this guy went on RGR's show, and she literally engineered a fight with him. Like there wasn't real. She manufactured drama with this person, right? So I did a video, going over what happened and kind of showing what she was actually doing, and that, like as much as I disagree with some of Drew's viewpoints on things, like, he didn't do anything to warrant like the performative blow up that she did on him, right? I think that's probably what pissed her off about me. And then, of course, she had that conversation with Demon Mama that devolved into a massive drama, and that's where she lost most of her community. Like everybody on the left, right? Yeah, they basically kind of got into a RGR, basically like a conversation that was. I mean, RGR wasn't saying like "yay trans medicalism" or anything like that, Well, she was basically endorsing it. Like the shit that she was saying was like transmed shit. And Demon Mama was like, well, I don't know if I agree with that, Riley. I don't know about that one. Right. So I made one of my bigger videos was like a, I took Demon Mama. The debate went like this, right? Demon Mama was streaming, Riley was streaming, and neither of them were on camera. So if you wanted to see both of their faces at the same time, which I felt was necessary for me to analyze the debate and actually give my opinion of who I think, caused this, drama, who was at fault, right? I needed to sew the videos together. I needed to combine, just like you sew TikToks together, right? I needed to combine them together into one video, right? So I could see both of their faces, I could see their nonverbal language. So I made that video, then I analyzed the debate like that, and that's another thing that she didn't like, right? She, I think, deleted her portion of the video, her half of the video. She basically didn't want anybody to see her nonverbal language, her body language, her facial expressions, because if you just watch Demon Mama stream, it's hard to tell, who's bad faith there, right? So yeah, because of this stuff, Riley Grace Rochon hated my guts, and she, I remember that Irrelevant video coming out where Irrelevant was like comparing trans women to people doing blackface, was basically comparing being trans to blackface. She, the video on Irrelevant's end was titled in a way that suggested that I at some point endorsed blackface. Like the thumbnail and the title made it look like that if you watch this video, you're going to see NoCommentChick be like, oh, but blackface is all right. Isn't it? Isn't it okay? Isn't it totally fine to do blackface? Like, right? It made it sound like I was going to endorse blackface, right? Which, obviously I didn't. So Riley Grace Rochon, when Irrelevant put this video out, she watched it and she live tweeted. She live tweeted because she was so excited. I finally got NoCommentChick. All right, she's been a burr in my saddle for the longest time, but I guess she endorses blackface somewhere in this debate. So I'll just watch this video and I'll live tweet as during the premiere or something like that, right? That being said, needless to say, chat, she ended up deleting that Twitter thread because there was no revelation of NCC supports blackface, right? She was. She trusted Mr. Geek's thumbnail, right? Which he's a guy that like just weirdly kind of thirsty, but also he like thirst hates me in a weird way. This is a friend of Dylan Burns, and also lest I forget, Riley Grace Rochon, big friend of Dylan Burns. In fact, I think they've talked shit about me together on stream. So anyway, I have some history with this person that people are associated. So the TLDR chat is that RGR, Riley Grace Rochon, is a transmed, and Contrapoints has dallied in, I guess, some transmedicalist language before, right? I mean, she says she's not. Nobody knows what's actually in her heart. But in general, most people do consider Riley Grace Rochon to be a transmed and a lolcow and a just ridiculous person. And Contra kind of was not. That the verdict was never, that she's like this evil transmed. Although I guess we don't know what's in her heart, right? And she has said some kind of sussy stuff before, right? So that's the TLDR. I thought she was Vader in the trench run. Oh God, I have you now. Oh yeah, basically that's what she was like. Yeah, FD Signifier made a point I really respect. Made a point I really respect the real right wingers, minorities, like actual conservative liberals, because people like Candace don't actually push the bar farther right. Are you talking about his latest video? One of his light works? I think I might have seen that video too. Am I the only trans female streamer who has? Oh my God, you're right, Nathan. You're right. Yeah, Keffels, Demon Mama, RGR. the only one that hasn't joined up with Vosh or, yeah, God. I didn't even think of that. I mean, I'm sure. Look, I'm sure there's other people. I'm sure there's other people right now. I'm probably just not thinking of them.
Your tax dollars are contributing to unlimited bloodshed in the global south, but especially in Palestine right now, especially in Gaza right now. And your focus, after 20 months of live streamed holocaust of men, women, and children in Gaza, the complete and utter annihilation, death and destruction in Gaza, is still on your personal feelings, how you feel about it, how the personal hysterics that you have developed around this issue because of the takes that you see online. Okay, if you continue to center yourself, and you are just like me, a perhaps the most spoiled person on the planet, living in the United States of America automatically qualifies as.
Yeah, matriarch seems pretty cool. I mean, like some of these people, some of these people signed up in the Vosh network. Like people are talking about Riverboat Jack that has a White Leaf site. And has in the past been pretty close to Vosh. Also, some really, really bad takes around the say her name controversy. But yeah, matriarch seems. I don't know. There's a lot of people that I don't know that much about, and there's probably a ton of people I'm just not thinking of at the moment because my mind is focused on that one section of Twitch poll, right? It's Twitch poll. It's Twitch poll really that seems to be the vector for people, disappointing. The debate sphere, Twitch poll, DGG, VGG, like that's where kind of good creators go bad, or maybe creators that you thought were good, show their true natures, right? Unfortunately. But yeah, there's definitely. No, not matriarch. God, I don't know much about matriarch, but everything I've seen about matriarch seems good, right? But then again, I guess I'm not the right person to ask. I haven't watched a lot of matriarch's content, to be totally honest.
Cliff super chatted $9.99. Contra should have just gotten into Hideo Kojima. She would been politically radicalized fully, and I would have loved to see what could have come out of it.
Davy, you know what would have come out of that? A series of long streams of Contrapoints completing Death Stranding, many years ago, right? And and then yeah, when it's the new one's out, right? Is the new Death Stranding out? Yeah, we like if she I don't know, somehow like her as a video game streamer, I don't know, somehow that could have worked. Maybe, and at least we wouldn't know about some of her worst takes. Maybe, I don't know. If we're really desperate, I might have to actually get into streaming. Hey, if you got the, let's see, if you're willing, how do I put this? You're willing to be traumatized for what you believe in, then yes, you too can be a streamer. It's not as financially rewarding as people think. It's not as easy as people think, but it is a possibility. People are mentioning dead domain who goes by they them. Is that right? There are a lot of content creators that I don't know much about. I think what people are trying to say is that so there's some chatters that have been, the longer that they've been followers of mine, the more they've been exposed to the places that I kind of came up in, like Twitch poll, and the kind of streamers that I have done content with in the past, like Demon Mama and unfortunately RGR. And so that's right, they're aware of the streamers that I know a lot about, right, as opposed to the streamers like Matriarch and Dead Domain, who I just don't know that much about. but they seem cool from what I've seen. Yeah, and then some of the people like Riverboat Jack, who unfortunately whose takes align a little too much with Vosh for my taste, and it has also thrown in her lot with the White Leaf Network, which again it's just a very white space, like White Leaf, right? So you'll see like a lot of like racism coming from that sphere, where the content creator doesn't even realize that what they're saying is racist, right? Which is a whole nother thing. But
the most privileged people on the planet, okay? Anything beyond unconditional support to the Palestinian emancipatory movement, anything beyond unconditional support to the victims of genocide is ridiculous, okay? It's been 20 months. It's been 20 months. We've all seen the death. We've all seen the destruction. Stop trying to...
George Jackson, hasn't Riverboat Jack said some really racist stuff? I know she loves Pepe. I do remember going over, people sent me a Riverboat Jack VOD. I watched it and was kind of disgusted with the racism that it was this kind of shit that you'd expect from Vosh, right? That kind of, understand what I'm saying here. The kind of takes that you'd expect from Vosh, right? That's what and it just made me sick of my stomach, and I just have not really paid attention to Riverboat Jack's sense, but I don't know. I don't want to, put people off a content creator that they really like, if especially if they've, turned a new leaf or distanced themselves from White Leaf. I don't know anything about what's going on with our RBJ right now, so I don't want to jaundice anybody's view, but yeah, there was the one time that I've reacted, but just understand that's one segment out of I don't know how many. Like their views on other things may be completely fine. There's a lot of people out there that I don't know, so
to rationalize away and stop trying to normalize this death and destruction. It's not normal. People recognize that it's not normal. And our institutions are seemingly immovable, and yet we still persist, and yet we still continue to push them with the hopes that we can enact some sort of positive change, hopefully one day get some semblance of justice.
Oh, it's pronounced matriarchy. Is that I don't, there's some people that I don't know anything about, and that's why I don't want to get into like giving my take on every single streamer out there.
But if you're not going to do all that, if you can't if you can't see Palestinians as humans, but simply victims of circumstance, okay, simply just a group of people that you don't want to think about as people, as human beings, okay? Speak for yourself. I had a horror show of a childhood. Man, shut up. You're doing it right now, okay? What I'm talking about is our birthplace, okay? As a part of growing...
But it is pronounced matriarchy, right?
Up in the United States of America, you are automatically luckier than a Palestinian child. This is ridiculous. It's not even a question. You would never say this about a Jewish child that was sent to Auschwitz, okay? The only reason why you feel like you can say this is because something in your brain is stopping you from recognizing these people as human beings. That's it. That is at the heart of this controversy, okay? If you try to intellectualize why Palestinians are suffering, if you do all of this, instead of just like looking at this and seeing right from wrong, you're worse than like half of these conservatives, man. Half of these conservatives who are like genuinely ruthless people, okay? Incredibly selfish people. Even they, like I know someone, okay, that is related to a person who was at January 6th. That's how much of a MAGA booster they are. And they find what Israel's doing to be unconscionable. They're evangelical. They grew up with the mentality that Jews are special class people that must get Israel so that we can trigger the rapture. There are people like that have seen the fathers carrying their daughters and their sons in
Wait,
plastic-
I'm sorry. Are we talking about the same person? Okay, maybe I don't actually know. Yeah, matriarchetype is the I've like seen one or two videos that were pretty good of is there another content creator named Matriarchy? Maybe I don't know. I should just stop talking about other content creators because I feel like it's going to get me in trouble. Like, right? You know, what if River Jack comes in here and is like, you said that I was racist? Prove that I was racist. It's like, bitch, I can't fucking find the VOD. I just do remember like watching some stuff at some point that was so disgusting that I had to turn it off, right? That could have come straight out of Vosh's mouth, right? Like that kind of shit, which, you know, the answer to that, well, you think Vosh is racist? Prove it. Like, okay, let's not relitigate like everything going back to, you know, the Cat Black controversy, right? Let's like, I don't have time. This is why I should not talk about it, right? Because again, and I'm not trying to shit on anybody. I'm not trying to close off. Like, people can grow, people can change, people can learn. I don't pay attention to a lot of these people whose names have been brought up. You know, I don't want to, you know, I don't want to, my memory of somebody's past to prevent a better future of content creation for them. And again, you know, we saw the Surfs were once in the White Leaf Network as well, right? We all like Lance from the Surfs, right? Lance left, and you know, maybe that would have been harder if people had been more like, oh yeah, Lance, he's a white leafer. Oh yeah, he's never. So I'm trying not to, you know, be that person. I'm trying not to carry on any sort of grudges or anything, or you know, let like the, you know, limited exposure that I have for somebody's takes, you know, dictate what I think that they can do in the future. I don't know.
Bags, the remains of them, and that's it. For them, it's over. You, like, how can you look at all of this as in destruction? Okay, Cutie, what are you guys talking about? Cutie, this is not drama. I'm just giving you some serious shit. Cutie is Mormon also. Okay, like this is.
I'm sorry. How did Cutie Cinderella get brought up? Speaking of people I don't know much about, am I sexist because I generally have no idea how to spell matriarchy? Yes. Just kidding.
Such a uniquely violent circumstance. Okay,
I think that's the answer you were looking for, though.
Never had an instance where like we have seen the Holocaust unfold in real time. That has never happened. Okay, in the past.
Unfortunately, it has, but people have not been focused on it. The media environment has changed, right? The ability to pay attention to, like, for instance, what was going on in Rwanda in real time would not have been there because that happened back in the 90s, right? And, you know, the internet existed, but just not to the extent that it does now, right? So, but yeah, I get what he's saying. And I agree.
We've had glimpses of it, you know what I mean? Illegal incursions, death, destruction, violence, but never to this degree, and never in broad daylight in real time. But now there are freaking
communist invading radicals.
I really find that they did this one thing, this one time, therefore they are bad for forever, sort of frustrating from that side of the left. Yeah, and even though I've been hit with that kind of thing over things that I did that actually weren't bad, I do try to I want to be the kind of person that's somebody that's had issues with me in the past, right? Somebody who maybe I've said some kind of harsh things about in the past. You know, if they're a good person and they're aligned with, you know, the values that we're promoting here, I want to be like accessible for that kind of person. And I have seen some of that, chat. Some people that have really like hated my guts and said horrible things about me back in the day, like some of the old mods that quit in 2021. Since then, I've had conversations with, and you know, they have apologized essentially for things that they've said about me in the past that were not true, or things that they believed about me that turned out not to be true. And I want to always kind of leave the door open for that kind of thing, right? I do believe that people can change, and even if I'm wrong about, individual people's propensity to change, I would rather make the mistake of giving them a chance than to make the mistake of not giving them a chance. Does that make sense? Right? Like I've if people would actually take in the information he speaks on, he'd have a lot less weird obsessive haters. Yeah, in some ways, BCAT, it's like a lot of what Hasan does is to bust open the false horizon of capitalist realism, right? And for people that are still stuck in that capitalist realism, that's going to look like, oh, so you just hate America. Oh, so you think that the CCP is like perfect and does not suppress free speech. Oh, so you think that Soviet Union
Super chatted $9.99. Well, let's be real, there is multiple humanitarian crises in Africa right now.
Oh, yeah.
Including cleansing. It's just that the people doing it aren't literally live streaming it and saying how cool it is.
True. And in some cases, there's less of an inflection point with the United States. Although, I mean, the United States still is a global hegemon. So, yeah, if we had a government that was responsive to its people on a foreign policy level, then, theoretically, we should be able to do something about that. But yeah, it's a little bit different. Does anybody know about that? There's a connection, I guess, between Israel and I think it's Congo, right? I think there's some, I don't know. So people will always bring up, like, well, you care about, you talk about Palestine. Why don't you talk about Sudan? Why don't you talk about Congo? Why don't you talk about, all these other events, right? And one of those events is like actually an event where Israel is assisting the bad guys, like, right? And I take cues from Bob the drag queen when it comes to bigotry. Everyone gets one fuck up, and you've been informed of your after you've been informed of your bigotry, you repeat it. I am done. Yeah, that's one way to handle it for sure. They're not even responsive to personnel in the State Department. Yeah, often times. Feel like you healed from this, but you're getting pulled back into place you don't seem to want to be, but ignore me. I'm self-destructive right now. Yeah, no, you're not wrong, Infallible Fowl. I just know that when drama starts, sometimes the emotional reaction can make things worse and can make bridges that could be rebuilt unbuildable, right? And I don't want to do that anymore. And even if it puts me at a little bit of peril to trust somebody that maybe has burned me in the past, I would rather do that than to just be like a locked door, if that makes sense.
Yes. A lot of these incidents might come across as familiar to you because that's precisely what Israel has been doing. They've been playing the Nazi-style Holocaust playbook in perpetuity, playing itself out every single day. The only unique instance here is that we get to see the people that are victims to it in real time, in broad daylight. We hear their cries. We see them as human beings. There is more information on this stuff than ever before. But in any case, as I was saying, when all of this is unfolding and everyone is aware of it, if you're going to come out and be like, I was quiet for the past 20 months, but now I have a statement and it's wishy-washy and it's both sides bullshit or focusing on like leftists online, then spare yourself and everyone else the agita and just keep quiet. Just stay quiet. There's no reason to just come out. There's no honor in coming out like this to be like, here's why I didn't say anything. Okay? If you get over yourself and you get over your own like moral hangups or anything like that, and then you support the Palestinian emancipatory movement and that's it, and you say free Palestine, It don't matter what I said in the past. I'm here. I've learned my lessons. I've changed my mind. Or even if you just say, hey guys, I'm pro-Palestine. I've been pro-Palestine. I just haven't really spoken about it. Whatever. It doesn't matter. As soon as you do that, I'm with you. You know, I and many others in this movement will welcome you with open arms. Okay? They'll always do that because we need the numbers. Okay? There is no other way to fight back against this. This is the only way to do it, is to keep up the pressure. And you need more people from every different walk of life, from every different background, regardless of what their other opinions are. If they're united on this issue and they're protesting, then they're good with me, okay? And I've always maintained this position. But if they cynically say that they're, you know, pro-Palestine, only to just like try to criticize the people who've been there.
Yeah, if you're saying that you're pro-Palestine in order to debase the current pro-Palestinian movement, especially when you have been noticeably silent about these issues, then yeah, that does seem bad faith at the least.
For a very long time, only to go out of your way to just be like, I'm pro-Palestine. Okay, now that I've said it's a genocide, can we really talk about what really matters? My own feelings and how annoying the left is? Like, then you're just saying that as a talking point just so you can do this other shit. It's insane. And everyone can see it. Like, what do you mean? What are you doing? Trying to carve out a little space for yourself and others like you who are, you know, they think it's a genocide, but no one should resist against it. They think it's a genocide, but no one should speak out against it. They think it's a genocide, but no one should protest against it. Like, what kind of position is this? Then you don't think it's a genocide because in your framework, you don't believe it. You don't believe yourself. And the last point that I made was most of the liberal Zionists that were screaming after October 7, okay, that were demanding unconditional loyalty and support to the apartheid state. They either became psychotic Kahanists, okay, like Meir Kahan, or they became anti-Zionists. Like, there are examples of liberal Zionists that months after October 7 turned into anti-Zionists. Maybe initially they were like very passionate, very upset at Hamas, but since then they've realized that, yeah, objectively, what Israel is doing is a genocide. This is unconscionable. This is the evolution of Zionism, and they've recognized it on their own, and they've changed their minds. Or the last category is liberal Zionists who just stay quiet because they can read the room. There are examples of people that I have admired, okay, that, for example, I have a difference in opinion on with respect to Israel's apartheid, with respect to the genocide that Israel is doing, who can't get themselves to say that this is Israel's problem. They say it's Benjamin Netanyahu's war. They say, Israel is a right-wing place, is a fascist place, but like also simultaneously seemingly make excuses, right? There are old liberal Zionists who I admire. Bernie Sanders is one of them. But Bernie Sanders, regardless of his difference in opinion on this issue, does not make this the singular force of his political convictions. He understands that there are people who are far more radical than he is, far more invested in the emancipation of Palestinians, and he never sits there and goes, "F you for doing that," okay? He doesn't do the cynical, this is anti-Semitism, this is like extreme anti-Semitism, I don't agree with this. He doesn't do that. He doesn't get in the way. As a matter of fact, he endorses people that have a more radical position than he does. I don't know what's going on in his mind, but as long as someone, regardless of their difference in opinion on this issue, okay, but as long as someone is not getting in the way of other people who are doing their very best, trying whatever they can, when everything seems so hopeless, in the face of unimaginable cruelty, when someone is doing, when someone who has a disagreement, yeah, Brad Lander is another example, when someone who has a disagreement with all that, who doesn't make that the focal point, the central point of their politics, and doesn't stand in opposition of those who have passed their framework and sees them as allies, then I have respect for them. I, on the other hand, have no respect for people who are, at this point especially, still both sidesing this shit, okay? That's crazy, man. What are we doing? You can't try to punish people for being correct early and still present yourself in a progressive posture, it is ridiculous. So let's see what she said. As I said, is Israel committing a genocide in Gaza? Yes. Do I oppose it? Yes. Do I feel angry about it? Yes. But I also feel a lot of other things. No need to say any of this stuff, honestly. One, doom. She also like presented this Reddit post like one of her videos, which is so crazy. Like with the paragraph titles and everything. The week after October 7, it was clear the mood among the Israeli leaders and civilians was overwhelmingly kill or be killed. Existential panic and unstoppable lust for revenge. It reminded me of the U.S. after 9/11. There was no reasoning or protesting them out of it. Nor was it politically feasible for the U.S. to withdraw aid to Israel on a time frame that would make a difference. That's just objectively incorrect. And it makes me feel like she doesn't know enough about this issue. Because there's only two options here. Either she's cynically misinforming people, or she just genuinely is oblivious to this reality. And I think it's the second, okay? The idea that, well, they're just bloodthirsty, not much we can do about it, is one thing, which is also crazy. Like, just because someone...
The haiku formatting was a choice as well. I don't know, Chad. I feel like I see a lot of people... Yeah, what she did... So what she did is she made the... We're talking about the Contrapoints post itself, which... oh, God. I had it open a second ago. It's sinner justified, right? Which I don't know, is that normal? This is a Reddit post, right? I guess I've seen this shit on Instagram. I don't think I've seen people post like this on Reddit, although I gotta admit, I'm not super
chatted $10. You don't have to trust, just don't linger on things said about you ages ago. Hopefully everyone's moved on, or if they haven't, they aren't worth the hurt. Sorry you went low that.
Oh yeah.
Hands.
Well, you're right, Infallible. A little bit of that stuff has come up, and I've tried my best not to linger on it. I mean, some of it's kind of interesting when somebody in chat's got some insight, or has seen a few things that I haven't. But yeah, in addition to like that, what you're talking about, like lingering, dwelling on the past, so to speak, right? I think I'm also concerned about maybe giving my opinion about other streamers, not apropos of anything that they've said about me, but apropos of things that they have said that I find to be horrible, right? I don't want to dwell on that either, especially if it's from ages ago. I want to give them a chance to move on as well, if that makes sense.
Just because,
but yeah, thank you for the super chat.
A foreign entity, a foreign government is experiencing bloodlust doesn't mean that we can't protest that. Is nuts, okay? But beyond that, Contrapoints is who said this. But beyond that, the notion that like it was not politically feasible for
like church worship lyrics, is that what you get? Like my church always had like the hymnals, right, where it would actually be like music, right, with the verse 1, verse 2, verse 3 kind of thing. But yeah, I guess you could get handed out just the lyrics and kind of do a sing-along. Contrapoints post does remind me of an unhinged Ethan Instagram post, same vibes, being a genocide apologist who actually calls it genocide and finds a way to justify it anyway. Yeah, true.
For the U.S. to withdraw.
It is very Instagram coded. Does she, is there a lot of does she do Instagram?
Aid to Israel on a time frame that would make a difference is wrong. If that was the case, Biden would not have flown to Israel a week after October 7 and did the now known as the bear hug strategy with Benjamin Netanyahu, and then accelerated $14 billion in weapons transfers to Israel with haste. It's just wrong. It is just wrong information. You are incorrect. Okay? You're just wrong about this. If this is the genuine logical framework, if these are the underlying premises that you are building your opinion off of, you're just wrong. Okay? This is not even I'm not even making a moral statement here. I'm saying you are wrong. 100%. Since October 7, America is responsible for 70% of all munitions that Israel has deployed both on Gaza and all munitions that have been deployed to defend Israel in their defense systems. 70%. The United States of America is the country that keeps Israel as violent as it wants to be.
So in other words, to say that there's nothing that can be done from the point of view of an American citizen is just wrong.
Israel is our attack dog in the region. It is ridiculous. If Israel was not reliant on our endless support, both political cover.
Oh, just like, oh shit, I didn't even get that. When you mentioned Sinner Justified, just like PowerPoints, and then not ID 77 says Sinner Justified is the format and tone of her voice, or of her post. Yeah, I didn't even think about that. Yeah, Contra's politics, Sinner Justified. Yeah, we just made up a new ideology to describe Contra's politics, and I think it accurately describes Ethan's politics as well. It's Sinner Justified. That's what we're dealing with. Some smug, centrist, useless bullshit. Mostly Twitter. She's pretty aware that anything that goes on her subreddit. She responded to one of my points after she got wasted on benzos and wines. I was concerned parasocially. I mean, yeah, I can understand. Yeah, it is something that she struggled with for a long time, I guess. People at Contrapoints or Destiny who have subreddits full of nothing but their parasocial followers, just not healthy. Reddit should ban all parasocial subreddits that don't allow us dissent. Maybe I should give somebody else some. So, like I said, chat, I set up a NCC subreddit a long time ago, and I've never used it, right? But what I wanted to do was kind of take the name off the market, just so that especially when I was getting harassment, that nobody else would set up a NoCommentChick. If they're gonna set up a subreddit, anyway. But yeah, maybe I could give somebody else the transfer ownership to somebody else. The sinner is so miserable.
Over at the UN and on the international stage, and also political cover from sanctions that would broadly be sent to any other country that was doing this level of ethnic cleansing, this much in broad daylight with Western munitions. Okay, we give it political cover, we give it protection, but most importantly, we give it directly the weapons that they use on the Palestinians. If that wasn't the case, Israel would not have a multi-billion-dollar propaganda network that steadily focuses on changing Western societal attitudes towards Israel in a positive way all the time. They would not have this sophisticated web of influence in perpetuity since the inception of the state of Israel. It's ridiculous. Okay? Why are they spending all that money then? For fun? Of course not. They're spending it because they also have to. They recognize that propaganda is an absolute necessity for this continued support. And this continued support is an absolute must for Israel's continuation as a violent apartheid regime, one that is now doing genocide. So that's just objectively wrong. It would have required replacing most of Congress and overturning decades of bipartisan strategy and diplomacy. Bullshit. Even in the best case scenario, it would have taken years, so there was a sense of futility, but worse. 2. Misery. The leftist pro-Palestine movement quickly decided that their primary goal was not merely opposition to the genocide, but opposition to Zionism in general. Yes, of course. The leftist anti-fascist movement quickly decided that their primary goal was not merely the opposition to the Wehrmacht, but it was, or opposition to the Holocaust, but it was actually opposition to Nazism in general. That is, opposition to the existence of Germany as an Aryan state. And here they decide.
Yeah, this is one. There was a. He's going to refer, I think, to a. I think it's a quote retweet of. Was it a quote retweet of Dexertonox? That's the Ethan Klein thing. I think it was a quote retweet to this. Look at quotes. Nope. I'm trying to make a quote. I'm trying to look at the quotes. What the fuck? Okay, what do I have to click this first? I can click view quotes. Yeah. This is one I didn't show you though. I don't know if it'll pop up. What the fuck? Yeah, there's been a lot of, oh yeah, look at that. Somebody's responding to her post with the exact thing that I showed. I don't know if we're gonna find the thing that I'm looking for, but somebody took they took her post and they replaced like the word like Zionist with Nazi, and like, right, it kind of anyway, I doubt I'm going to be able to dig this up. There's so many people have responded to this. Anyway, let's just watch. Let's let Hasan say it.
To draw the line separating decent people from genocidal fascists of Germany as, but it was actually opposition to Nazism in general. That is, opposition, not merely the opposition to the Wehrmacht genocide, but opposition to Zionism in general. It would have taken years, so there was a sense of futility, but work.
I want to let Hasan roll on this because this is a good point. I think he might be getting it from the same quote retweet that I've got in mind, but I don't know for sure. So and I don't have that tweet on hand, unfortunately. So I'm just going to let him say this.
Misery. The leftist pro-Palestine movement quickly decided that their primary goal was not merely opposition to the genocide, but opposition to Zionism in general. Yes, of course. The leftist anti-fascist movement quickly decided that their primary goal was not merely the opposition to the Wehrmacht, but it was, or opposition to the Holocaust, but it was actually opposition to Nazism in general. That is, opposition to the existence of Germany as an Aryan state. And here they decided to draw the line separating decent people from genocidal fascists, which had the following consequences. It shrunk the coalition. Zionist is a very broad category. Most Jews are Zionists. Anyone who supports the two-state solution is a Zionist. So here it is. Again, wrong. Wrong. This is the Will Stancil tweet from October 8th. The Matt Iglesias tweet and the Will Stancil tweet from like October 8, 2023 saying the left will never survive this. What has taken place on October 7 is so horrifyingly violent that the DSA is over. The left will never survive this. There will never be a coalition that cares about Palestine ever again. And as a matter of fact, anyone who supports this is supporting October 7, and therefore there will never be a left movement in this country ever again. That's what they were saying. That's what they were saying almost 2 years ago. Look at the situation now. The Palestinian emancipatory movement has never had this much support in the United States of America.
Wait, who is he talking about again? I feel like this name, Will Stancil. Anybody want to tell me who is Will Stancil? I keep on hearing this name come up. In fact, I think it came up during the Elon Mecha Hitler thing. Like, oh yeah, Will Stancil, didn't somebody like told Grok to write basically like a how do I describe this? A description of how Grok would R-word Will Stancil into submission for not agreeing. And it did. It wrote several, like, right, people. But yeah, Will Stancil, right, is the name that he mentions.
Zionist. Anyone who supports the two-state solution is a Zionist. So here it is. Again, wrong. Wrong. This is the Will Stancil tweet from October 8th. The Matt Iglesias tweet. And the
centrist columnist, I think. Yeah, he's mentioning him with, like, Matt Iglesias, who we, you missed when I covered the Welcome Fest, which is the Abundance DashCon. That was Matt Iglesias was a featured speaker. He's kind of famous for this weird thing that he wrote about, like, we need to get more Americans. We need to, like, literally this was like a call for open borders, right? essentially for like, let's get as many immigrants as we can, because look at how many people live in China and not as many people live in the US. If we're going to beat China, we got to get more people than them. So let's open those doors, right? He says this. And then as soon as the Trump, the 2024 election comes by, he flips it to like, oh, no, immigration is poisonous for the Democratic Party. We should be against that. Open borders are bad. It's just like ridiculous ass clown who nobody should take it seriously. Will Stancil, Warren type liberal guy that leftists hate, but goes pretty hard against conservatives. That makes sense. That's why that makes sense to why Grok was ideating on R-ing him. What the fuck? Like, I mean, that's some pretty harsh stuff. I couldn't really get through the description of Grok because the thing was Grok was like excited about committing SA or committing R word on this liberal columnist guy, Will Stancil. I don't know anything about him though.
The Will Stancil tweet from like October 8, 2023 saying the left will never survive this. What has taken place on October 7 is so horrifyingly violent that the DSA is over. The left will never survive this. There will never be a coalition that cares about Palestine ever again. And as a matter of fact, anyone who supports this is supporting October 7, and therefore there will never be a left movement in this country ever again. That's what they were saying. That's what they were saying almost 2 years ago. Look at the situation now. The Palestinian emancipatory movement has never had this much support in the United States of America. Ever. Ever, ever, ever. Also wrong. The notion that these people that were more knowledgeable on the issue of Palestine, on who was being oppressed and who was doing the oppression, and the ideological reasons for why Israel was doing this oppression, this exterminationist policy as a direct consequence of Zionism being an ethno-religious supremacist ideology that revolves around the extermination of the indigenous population, the otherizing and the dehumanization of all Palestinians, Christian, Muslim alike, and all Arabs in general. The monolithization of all Arabs as a parasitic force is identical to the Übermensch mentality of Nazi Germany. It is the same exact type of fascist policy making. It is the same exact type of fascist ideology. So for someone who has written extensively about the alt-right and the Nazis and whatnot, I am shocked how someone like Contrapoints, who is very well read on this stuff, cannot put two and two together. It makes no sense. Okay? And it didn't shrink the coalition at all. So you're just objectively wrong about that. When you look at the Democratic Party's base of support, I mean, the Harry Enton CNN Holy Toledo video comes to mind. Harry Enton points to Democratic Party support for Israel and Israelis shifting more than 60 points in the direction away from being pro-Israel to being pro-Palestine by
57 points, right? But still, it's pretty, yeah, Holy Toledo is right, Witchery Rocky.
2 points. Used to be pro-Israel by 17 points. And then post-October 7, when this ethnic cleansing campaign accelerated and everyone could see it, it turned into a plus 43 point swing in the direction of Palestinians. So this coalition has grown. And I see it. I've mentioned this over and over again. We talk about this off camera as well with other people who have been talking about Palestinian emancipation for decades, myself included. Like, I have seen this environment, the information environment, and the previous methods of like
Double Hasan tomorrow. What does that mean, Narwhal?
Squashing any sort of criticism of Israel go away. It withered away. I myself am living and breathing proof. A political commentator who is able to speak convincingly on Palestinian emancipation since October 8, 2023, without being utterly destroyed. You have hundreds of thousands of people in European capitals taking to the streets, demanding an end to this bloodshed. This is unheard of. Something that happened quietly over the past 10 years, that the thing you're supposed to say about Israel, Palestine, and progressive circles shifted from a two-state solution message to a binationalism message, which has greatly increased intra-left coalition tension. This is on October 13th, 2023. When the spectrum of opinion ranged from stridently pro-Israel but pays lip service to the two-state solution to fired up about Israeli human rights abuses and the need for a Palestinian state, it's easy for people who don't really care, most people, to fudge it. Once you raise the stakes for what counts as sympathizing with Palestinians to the level of from the river to the sea...
Wait, where is he getting this? Is he reading the Will Stancil? Oh no, this is Matthew Iglesias. God damn. Enemy of the VOD, Matthew Iglesias, yeah. Oh, Hasan Minhaj. I forgot about that. Yeah, he's still in NYC for that.
You generate a much more polarized debate that can't be fudged. A question that I find generally interesting in politics is, when does it make sense to try to deliberately polarize an issue? It's not never, but it's also not always. And I think the practical upshot of this particular polarization dynamic is going to be bad for Palestinians. Note, for example, that Israel-Palestine is the only issue I can think of on which Joe Biden has positioned himself to the right of Barack Obama. He was wrong, objectively. He was wrong on this. But it's especially crazy to me to be wrong on this 20 months after the fact. Matt Iglesias is always wrong, okay? He's always the first to be wrong.
So yeah, the TLDR, people like Matt Iglesias and Will Stancil essentially wrote that, you know, this was the end for the left when this happened. This was the end, certainly, for the pro-Palestinian movement. This was going to be toxic for any left-wing politician to touch, other than to just, you know, give vehement, I mean, this is the advice, unfortunately, chat, that it feels like the Kamala campaign took to heart.
Wrong. How are you going to be the last to be wrong? I never thought that there was a position worse than Matt Iglesias is on this issue. Yeah, Matt Iglesias is always wrong. Fork found in the kitchen. So it did not actually shrink the coalition, okay? Zionist is a very broad category, yeah, by design. And there's a lot of lies being told about what Zionism is. Also by design. This is the reason why Zionism is oftentimes in the media covered as like, do you care as a Jew about the state of Israel? But you know,
and look, as you know, if you're, you know, if you throw in that as a Jew, right, that also adds, like, do you have any family in Israel, right? And you know, that misunderstands what Zionism is and what's wrong with it, right? Do you care about Israel could mean, do you care about, like, the same way that I care about the United States because my sister lives there and my friends live there, right? But you know, it's like, doesn't mean that I'm in favor of a global hegemonic state and the, you know, imperialism and exploitation of the periphery, right? There's a difference in those two statements, and that difference is important when the way that the question is asked about, you know, to the Ethan Klein, the polls that Ethan Klein uses to state that, like, what does he say, like 80% to 95% of Jews would qualify as Zionists, right? The issue is framed in a very fudgeable way. It's framed in a very malleable sort of way, right? And it doesn't get to the heart of what Zionism actually is and what it's about and what's wrong with the Israeli ethno-religious state.
You know what's never talked about? Because I don't know why. Well, I do know why we centered this conversation around Jews. Okay, there is a far larger force of
the U.S. is oppressing people domestically, not just outside its borders. I mean, same thing. You could say the same thing about Israel.
Zionism around the globe throughout history, and certainly
and especially now in the de facto one-state solution that Netanyahu has pushed this into, one apartheid state with multiple rungs of citizenship, and with the top being gate kept by your you know, ethno-religious background.
United States of America that is far more consequential and has outsized control in American politics than Jews and their opinion on Israel. It's evangelical Zionism. Kufi is the largest donation group to the settlement project to Israel in general in this country, Christians United for Israel. It is evangelical Christians.
Wait. The question you're referring to was, okay, no, the question that, oh my God, what's his name? I can't remember. Not Steve Kornacki. Who is we just had his video open. It's not this one. Enton, yeah, Harry Enton. Yeah, are you talking about this question? How, yeah, this is phrased as who, I think this is phrased. Are you talking about this question? The title is who Democrats sympathize more with? There's this poll, right? And then the one that I was most recently referring to, I think, was the one that Ethan Klein takes as his evidence for saying that if you're anti-Zionist, you're against like 80 to 95% of Jews in America. And then therefore you're an anti-Semite. You're anti-Zionist. I think it also asked if they have a sense of connection. Are you talking about this poll? The Quinnipiac? One or a different one? It's what I remember. Oh, you're talking about, yeah, the one that he brought up with Sam Cedar. Yeah.
Are the force. This is why I have always said that even if every single American Jew tomorrow turned around and said, I'm an anti-Zionist, America's foreign policy and its association with Israel would not change, especially in the short term, because America's investment in Israel has nothing to do with Jews as a special category or as a special class. It has everything to do with material interest. Okay? Now, having said that, has there been a lot of influence peddling in the process over the course of the past 77, 78 years? Of course there has been. Is there an ideological component to the zealotry demonstrated by a lot of Christian Zionists?
Yeah, the majority of Zionists are Christian Zionists by a long shot, by an extremely long shot, right? And I don't buy, and neither does Sam, what Ethan is selling in terms of his characterization of look what 75% chat of Jewish people in New York City voted for Mamdani. I think I'm getting that statistic right. Right, so the idea that the way that Ethan is trying to characterize American Jews is just wrong. Is just straight up wrong. Hard to keep up with who said what, when, just want to free Palestine.
Jewish Zionists alike? Absolutely. But that's not the driving force of this allegiance. That's not the driving force of this partnership. That's not the reason why, you know, when USS Liberty happens, like the American government's like, oh, don't say anything, you know? That's not the reason why Israel's a special status client state. Okay? It is the fact that Israel is a unsinkable aircraft carrier with its own espionage facilities. It is America's very own special attack dog that it can always control in a resource-rich region.
Cranberry Soul says, I remember Ethan saying Hasan that Israel would rather go out in a blaze of glory before they equally share the land. Oh God, I forgot. Yeah, how cringe that was.
Rich both in oil, but also incredibly important for global trade. Okay, with the Suez Canal. That's it. That's precisely why Joe Biden said in the 90s, if Israel didn't exist, we'd make one. He was right. He was honest about America's framework on this issue. It was politically infeasible. What is the pathway that takes us from a present situation to the dissolution of Israel as a Jewish state? I don't see how this could happen without either a total internal collapse of Israeli society or else, you know, nuclear war. As usual, leftists have championed a doomed cause. And at this point, it's like it turns into just your own personal, incredibly petty, incredibly self-centered attitude about what you think the online left is doing. It turns into just like looking at an issue that is black and white and saying, well, it's the worst crime that you can ever do, genocide, but the leftists are just like being crazy about it. Like, this is just your stupid gripes with leftist people online and what you perceive as like the broader movement, the broader pro-Palestinian movement. Okay? Dangerous ambiguities. The vagueness of Zionism as a political Satan enables all kinds of rhetorical abuses. The dangers of Nazism as a political statement enables all kinds of rhetorical abuses. Okay? It's like, this is an argument that you're launching here is virtually identical to the Boers and their existence in apartheid South Africa, the white South Africans that wanted to maintain an apartheid. Okay, like it's ridiculous. It's like saying this about Nazi Germany. The dangers of developing enmity towards the Germans who support the Nazi regime. What is this? It enables all kinds of rhetorical abuses. On the one hand, right-wing Israelis hold up all anti-Zionist protests as existentially threatening and inherently anti-Semitic. On the other hand, there's a long history of anti-Semites using the term Zionist in a deliberately equivocal ways, Zog, etc.
Yeah, see, so here's the deal. Like, I don't know. Like, the feeling that I'm getting from Contrapoints is that she thinks there's a way to change Israeli public opinion, right? Or that there's some core of Israeli public opinion that is open to the idea of calling this genocide what it is and, you know, electing better politicians who won't do that. And that is, she's calling us naive, chat. Look at how naive Contrapoints is. Right? That is like, well, we got to just appeal to the German people. We got to appeal to the Volk. Let's like, we're not saying your Lederhosen are bad. We're not saying that your sausage and your beer, your bratwurst are bad. You know, we're not against the you know, the like, you know, the greatness of Deutschland, right? We just would wish that you would treat the, you know, Jewish people a little bit more humane. Like, I mean, it's fucking ridiculous. It's absurd to even say, you know, when you draw that parallel. It's both sidesism. I was getting that energy. I was wondering why she's got, it's pathetically naive and hopelessly useless.
Anti-Semites are happy for the opportunity to misappropriate the now popular anti-Zionist label to legitimize their agenda, and many people are not.
It's a TYT level take. Yeah, this is a Contrapoints TYT, you know, heel turn. That's what we're seeing, right?
Informed enough about anti-Semitism to recognize when this is happening. These problems are mutually reinforcing. You know what's crazy about this?
Has she been hanging out with Ethan? The better question is, has she been hanging out with DGG or something? I don't know. But, God.
This isn't wrong, okay? But what's wrong about this is to slam this in a conversation where you're supposed to be making this distinction, but from the perspective of someone who is not a Zionist, okay? People like myself, we do this every day. There are so many much better read, much better activists out there on this issue that make this distinction every day. The difference is we see Muslims and Palestinians as human beings, and I think if you have this statement, if you can just say, well, these people are...
Yeah, he survived another vote, and they also put off the... there was supposed to be a court proceeding against this guy, right? But even, you know, Trump stepped, you know, was like putting pressure on them to postpone the court proceeding.
People are being slaughtered, but...
Anyone else getting nonstop PragerU ads recently? Nathan Drake, I'm not the best person to ask. I get Thai ads, except when I use a VPN, and then I get Dutch ads or Japanese ads. So, yeah, if there's PragerU ads out there, I got to get a USA VPN to even be able to see those, I guess.
You don't. You don't see them as human beings. You don't see them as full-blown human beings. Deep down inside, you have to feel like they kind of deserve it, and they should quietly just go away because they're ruining your day by simply existing in the direction of Israeli bombs and not quietly perishing away, but instead speaking out.
You're definitely ruining her brunch.
against their demise. Okay? Paragraph 3, dread. The online left has spent the last 20 months distributing hundreds of photos and videos of dead Palestinian children. The main effect of this, and this is the worst part about this, by the way, the main effect of this has been to create a population of people in a constant state of blood-boiling rage with no consequential political outlet. I fear this may be worse than useless. Anti-Semitism and anti-Zionism are conceptually not the same, and conflating them is dangerous. But in practice, the way Israel is perceived does seep out into attitudes towards Jews in general. I don't think the Jews who feel isolated and wary of the current atmosphere are simply hysterical or hallucinating. Yes, there's a communal trauma and hypervigilance. Yes, there's disingenuous right-wing ghouls dismissing and censoring all criticism of Israel on the pretext of fighting anti-Semitism. But there's also a valid fear of historical anti-Semitism patterns recurring.
Yo, Ty PragerU ads would be weird, chat. I went over a little bit of Thai politics yesterday. And again, it's something that I'm not going to talk about too much because I'm still an outsider here. There's a lot that I don't know. There's a lot that I don't understand. Me rendering a position on like this party good, this party bad, or this politician good, this party bad, politician bad would be, kind of meaningless at this point, right? But I talked about Thai politics when it came to an issue like the legalization of cannabis, which is now been overturned. But the surprising thing was that it was a conservative, it was a conservative party that was in favor of legalization, that being the BJT party, Bunjai Thai party, and then it was a left-wing political party that was like against it. But Contra blocked you? Oh no, Vadim, did you had you talked to her much? But I'm trying to imagine, like, yeah, what where the PragerU ads would come from and what they would be, because it's a little hard to conceptualize Thai politics. Glad Hasan is talking about this, yeah. And then, for the record, chat, every other time that there's been a controversy about Contrapoints, other than maybe, I don't know, did he talk about the Rathbone thing? Did he talk about Contra bringing up the problem of anti-Semitism on the left? With maybe that as an exception, I think Hasan has always given her a pass, right? Every time people have had an issue with Contrapoints, Hasan is like, nah, it's, So yeah, something's different here. Sometimes see PragerU and Turning Point ads while watching stuff like that. I no doubt, George Jackson, I think PragerU, Turning Points, and Tim Pool actually advertise on left-wing stuff, on left-wing content, from what I've seen. She's on our Anna Kasparian arc now, yeah. Didn't the PM just resign? Maybe. The PM has at least been suspended, and I do believe the Constitutional Court will, if she, if she doesn't resign, she'll likely be removed. As the last I checked, she was still a part of the government, but she had been given a different role while she was suspended. I don't know if they've named like a full-time replacement for her, and it is going to be kind of a caretaker government. The only thing that's weird about it is they're making big moves, like the cannabis, like moving cannabis from legal to medical. The way that they're doing it, they're tearing up the majority of a $1 billion plus industry in Thailand, an industry that's honestly made a lot of like poorer and middle class Thai people like financially solvent, right? Anakin Kasparian, nice. She had followed me previously. I posted a critique of her shitty post, and she blocked me. Goddamn. Hasan looks hurt. Yeah, I don't think he wanted to be. I mean, just, he's very charitable, yeah.
And that fear gives power to the right-wing Zionist claim that only Israel can keep Jews safe. Does this mean Israel should not be criticized or sanctioned? Absolutely not. But it's something I don't want to risk contributing to if not outweighed by tangible benefits, so I approach the issue cautiously. This is the absolute worst possible thing you can say, because it is the most wokeified, most intellectualized version of what Benjamin Netanyahu says when he says, these are telegenically dead children. And you know who's actually distributing the photos of hundreds of dead Palestinian children? Palestinians are. It's not actually the left that's distributing those photos. It's the Palestinians themselves that are speaking out on their own genocide, on their own ethnic cleansing. So to sit there and be like, this is just the woke left being woke by really pushing people to get angry about this documented genocide every single day is a psychotic thing to say. This is the worst thing that she mentions in this entire...
I did not realize the Will Stancil thing made national news. Are you talking about Grok threatening to R-word Will Stancil? Or are you talking about Will Stancil's tweet after October 7th?
It's not only wrong, once again, wrong on the facts. It is not the online left, because the online left is not in Gaza. Palestinians are in Gaza. They are the ones who are showing their own conditions. And to treat this as like a simple nuisance, something that is causing your day to be worse, something that's giving you blood-boiling rage, and then where does that rage go? Against Jews? Like, what kind of statement is this? This is the most politically correct version of saying this is Pallywood that I've ever seen. It is an unimaginably freakish thing to say. Incredibly disappointing. Like, what's the alternative? You see these harrowing images, and you don't look at them and feel some type of way. You don't actually try to get others to also feel angry and resentful towards what Israel is doing, which is genocide, and our contributions to said genocide as Americans. Crazy. A shameful statement. I cannot believe that Natalie typed this out, read it through, made sure there were no grammatical errors, and then thought that this was good to
Did she, though? I haven't checked it for grammatical and punctuation errors.
publish. It really truly reveals how little the people in her immediate orbit give a singular shred of about the lives of Palestinians. Clearly.
George Jackson, she's more against the online left than she is against genocide. It is strikingly similar to Ethan Klein's overall take.
There was not a single person that could have turned around and said, hey, you know how you said like conflating Israel with Judaism is dangerous? Maybe just hyper-focus on that aspect and talk about the cynical conflation being crafted by both liberal Zionists, and also the Nazis alike. Yes, there's communal trauma and hypervigilance. Yes, there's disingenuous right-wing ghouls dismissing and censoring all criticism. But it's something I don't want to risk contributing to. It's not outweighed by the tangible benefits. Yeah, I'm not going to contribute to anger and resentment towards the genocidal apartheid state of Israel unless there is an immediate solution. What is this if not cowardice? It also presents the issue as people who are pro-Palestine against Jews, okay? It's the long way to be this smug... It's the long way to take this like vapid, self-centered, incredibly smug attitude while talking about how, you know, every time you're doing, you know, activism or what you think is activism, when you go out to the streets and you protest against Israel, or you say Zionism is fascist, which it literally is, right? Every time you say the truth about Israel, every time you say the truth about Zionism as a political ideology, okay, as an ethno-supremacist, exterminationist political ideology, you're actually harming the Jews. Jews have been around for thousands of years. Zionism has been around for 78. Well, longer than 78, but Israel's been around for 78. Zionism has been around for a little bit longer than 78. The f*** do you mean? This conflation was deliberate, and it was a relatively new phenomenon. The notion that you would also come out with this statement after 20 months, hundreds of thousands of dead Palestinians. Every single day we see 50 Palestinians being shot at that are starving at a American Israel backed fake charity scheme because they've cut off all aid distribution into the Strip so they can do perfidy and use aid as a military mechanism to further displace and to further kill the Palestinian population, to make it impossible to survive in the Strip, so they can inevitably move them to concentration camps in Rafah and then move them away from the Palestinian lands into the Sinai Peninsula or wherever, probably the UAE. The idea that like this is the idea that this had anything to do with Judaism is psychotic, but to say that 20 months in is extra crazy. Much of the online left spent all of 2024 single-mindedly focused on Palestine and the complicity of the Democratic politicians in sending aid to Israel. This campaign had the following effects. 0 Palestinian lives were saved. Not one fewer bomb or bullet was fired by the IDF. It may have slightly contributed to the re-election of Trump, guaranteeing that the U.S. will put no diplomatic pressure on Netanyahu for at least 4 years and making protests against Israel much riskier and less effective. Trump is also, incidentally, a menace to me and basically everyone I care about. A perfectly enlightened being would feel no bitterness about this, but I do. It's just so... I mean, this is so incredibly self-centered. It's crazy. And not because I'm like centering this around what she's saying, which is trans issues and how much worse they're getting under Donald Trump as opposed to Joe Biden, even though I think plenty of trans people would disagree with that as well, saying that a lot of these anti-trans initiatives kickstarted under Joe Biden and Trump has just simply accelerated it, reaching its logical conclusion. But not only that, but especially on the issue of Israel, this is even more pertinent to the discussion. She is completely incorrect on this, not on the trans issue side, but she's completely incorrect on what she is saying about, one, the singular focus of the left. At least here, a lot of people would say that I was singularly focused on Palestine. It was not the case, okay? There were a litany of criticisms that I had about the Kamala campaign and a litany of criticisms I had about the Joe Biden administration, okay? Gaza was certainly an important part of this because it's a genocide. But it is crazy that, like, there is no logic here because you should be mad at the people in power. You should be mad at Kamala Harris and Joe Biden for wanting to continue this genocide, even if it was politically infeasible for them to do so, even if continuing this genocide actually played a role in her losing the election to an incompetent fascist piece of shit. The idea that the genocide protesters, the anti-genocide protesters are wrong and not the Democratic Party that looked at a 75-25 issue in that moment that signified perhaps the most significant problem with the Kamala Harris campaign, which was not cutting ties with the Biden administration, not just on Gaza, but on numerous different policies, because Biden was incredibly unpopular, immensely unpopular. He was old. He was decrepit. She could have been a fresh new face, and she did not do that. The real analysis here is not that the people are wrong for seeing these horrifying images every day and responding in the way that every normal human being with a conscience should respond. Okay? The real anger and resentment should be, how the did the Democrats not care about all of this death and destruction and the understandable resentment that was brewing organically in the base? How did they not even cynically, in a cold and calculated, heartless manner, not take advantage? I can't believe I'm using these terms, but like not even take advantage of the ongoing issue and present yourself as anti-war, anti-genocide. Even if you didn't care about the dead, charred children of Palestine, you could have simply used this as an opportunity to cut your ties with the Biden administration that was a dead weight. It was an anchor around your neck. It was criminal negligence. They did not care. Okay? They did not care enough. They were too predisposed with trying to win with their own method, with their own strategy, that they refused to see that this issue had changed forever. Sending Bill Clinton to Dearborn to talk about Judea and Samaria. sending Richie Torres to Dearborn. I had these conversations with people who are connected to the Biden administration. If you recall, I did the Pod Johns. I did Pod Save America before the election and after the election. If you recall, every single thing that I brought up that the Kamala Harris campaign was doing that was wrong before the election became the major focal point of how they lost the election. Running around with Liz Cheney, refusing to let a Palestinian who was in the Democratic Party and is still in the Democratic Party speak at the DNC. Incredible failures. Failure after failure. Saying you're going to do the most lethal military. Saying you're going to be more militant at the border than the Trump administration actually is. They're not sincere about their interest in destroying all Latinos that live on U.S. soil. It's not like this was impossible to see. There were plenty of dumbasses, myself included, that saw it from a million miles away. So the real resentment should be directed at the people in power that refused to listen, that refused to abide by the principles of the democratic process where our electeds are supposed to represent our interests. And in a situation where it's 75-25, I mean, what more can you ask for? It was a genocide that started in an election campaign, during an election season, during an election year. Trump is also incidentally a menace to me and everyone I care about. None of this is the fault of Palestinians, of course, who are overwhelmingly the victims here. Oh, thanks. Thanks, Natalie, for saying the Palestinians are overwhelmingly the victims here. I hope that someday American policy will shift in their favor, and I will continue to support that cause. TLDR, I see the situation as bleak, intractable, extremely divisive, and devoid of any element that could be appropriately transformed into political entertainment. That's why I haven't made a video about it. Hopefully it goes without saying that these are just my thoughts. I'm sure other bread tubers, in air quotes, have different opinions. So that was their take. And of course, when this unfolded on the timeline, everyone lost their minds, partially because Contrapoints is a trans woman. So obviously anything that a trans person says gets amplified a million times over by transphobes and you know, everyone else, of course. So there is that.
Yeah, that's what Quiman said, that you back in the day, all I had to do was be trans and I automatically got 100 people in chat. It's so they just amplify. Not exactly how it works, but thanks for playing, Quiman.
But what I don't,
he's getting talked about a lot. He's really gotten into, he's rustled Dan Saltman's jimmies to a pretty extreme point where I'm seeing botted activity over a bunch of channels talking about Quiman, or it's kind of wild how much that's popped off. Maybe checking that with that more later.
Understand about the entertainment part of this is that, are you doing entertainment when you talk about trans issues?
Wait, I won't make a video unless it benefits me. No, so she first of all started off saying something that's pretty reasonable, like, do you really want a ContraPoints video about Israel-Palestine? Because if you know ContraPoints videos, right, the example she gave was pouring milk over a mannequin with Jordan Peterson's face on it in a bathtub. Like, she's like, do you really want me to do that with Netanyahu? And so there is probably like a tone mismatch as far as what tone is appropriate to talk about Israel-Palestine with, and the tone adopted in ContraPoints videos. That part makes sense, but then she goes on to just like center her feelings, center her grief against the online left, and just completely and like blame the pro-Palestinian movement in some cases for the for the actions of Israel. I don't know how else to say it. My donos go to Epstein. Okay.
Is this not
that is one thing that you don't want clipped, isn't it, Davi? That's one thing that you never want to see that get taken out of context. Like Davies says, donos go to Epstein. Like, right? But we know what you mean. We know what you mean. We're talking about Trump, MAGA, Elon, and Epstein.
An existential issue for you?
And I got that coming up for you, so stick around.
Make a video trying to convert people, trying to change people's minds about trans existence. Is that simply entertainment? I don't think it's entertainment. There is an entertainment component to what I do. I see that. I understand that. But it serves the larger interest that I have in getting people to change their minds. And of course, predictably, Ethan Klein looked at this and went, wow, I couldn't have said this any better myself. This is exactly the war I've been waging. You know, I also think it's a genocide, but everyone should shut the up about it. Yeah, Contrapoints' whole take here is, believe me, in my heart, I oppose this genocide, but actively campaigning against it is unproductive, anti-Semitic, and bad tactics. And also makes me feel bad. And also led to Kamala Harris losing the election. I don't think any reasonable person would tell her you have no right to feel anxiety as a trans woman because the genocide takes precedence, is putting the genocide as a priority in spite of our specific oppressions. Yeah, I mean, this is something that people are recognizing at least now. So it seems like a new rhetorical strategy is dropped.
The most fucked up thing is she's wrong about that, right? The argument that she's trying to make is that the concentration on Palestine as an issue has, is like low key a major factor in Donald Trump's election. And in reality, it is the intransigence of the Biden administration and the Harris campaign that has enabled Trump, and yes, in a large part due to their unresponsiveness on this particular issue, right? So she's making an argument for pragmatically speaking, look, we all want for, the best for Palestinian people, and, we care about, what Israel's doing is awful, but if you really want to be against it, the first step to fighting it is to elect Kamala Harris, and to elect Kamala Harris, we have to pretend like Palestine is not an issue, because that's an issue that cuts against the left, and it's not. And it hasn't been for a long time. And it is, and especially now, 20 months after the conflict started, it's more clear than ever. The sea change. 2017, who do Democrats sympathize with more? By 13 points, Israel in 2017. Now, Palestinians by 43 points. That's a 56-point swing that we're seeing here. And so she's not even right on the pragmatic point, right? Which is kind of a gross thing to bring up when you're talking about a genocide. But even on that, she's wrong. Even on that, she's wrong. She's not just a little wrong. She's 180 degrees off. She literally could not be more wrong about this.
Concede that Israel is doing a genocide/war crimes, but then proceed to spend 100 more times and 100 times more space complaining that people opposing it are basically worse because they hurt Jewish feelings/make Democrats look bad. Did you read what she said, or just read a?
Yeah, Biva. I mean, she could if she changed her format. I mean, I suppose she could do a video, but I mean, she's the creative force behind Contrapoints, and so as far as the question of whether whether the Contrapoints creative brand is appropriate for handling this issue, I guess I gotta kind of leave that to her. And I don't have a problem with her saying, I can't make a video on this. There's a tone mismatch, right? I can see the tone mismatch. And if she doesn't want to completely change the tone of what she's doing, yeah, you probably can't. You're not going to, like she said, you're not going to do a video bathing Netanyahu in milk in a bathtub, for instance. But at the same time, doesn't mean that you can't speak up about this issue. And the sad thing is, when she does finally speak up about this issue, it is 90% to complain about the online left and its hyper focus on Palestine and how inconvenient that is for her, whether it's, through her blaming the movement for Kamala Harris's loss, or whether it's in anything else. Like it's just like, if you're going to speak up after 20 months, you better have something better than this to say, because this is just sad.
A little and get into your feelings. If you read what she said and agree with her, you're objectively wrong. And I can only tell you what the truth is, but you will probably never agree with me because part of the problem that you are exhibiting here is fundamentally unsolvable. You have to solve it on your own. Okay. And that is that it is not the left that is showing these images of Palestinians being slaughtered. It is
Elliot Sang pointed out that she never participated in any creator fundraising streams. Yeah, she said that something about donating to a Palestinian charity, and we've been over that. There's maybe some charities that present themselves that way that you don't want to donate to. So we don't really get any more information from that. But yeah, it does line up with somebody who wants to keep their brand out of the out of the controversy, which is a sad way to be right now.
Palestinians that are showing these images. Okay? It's also not just the online left that has made.
Roxy Amuse says, "Should I smoke the DMT tonight?" Roxy, what's that like? I've never tried. I've heard about it. I kind of know vaguely. It's a very short but very powerful experience. But yeah, I've never tried it myself. She could have used her platform to raise money. Yeah, for like a live stream. Yeah, exactly. She could have played a fucking video game. Like she could have tried to break a video game and get 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 people in chat and run a charity at the same time. Yeah, she could absolutely have done that. That's the kind of thing where that even gets her out of really having to say much about the situation. Ethan Klein style of activism. I donated, so leave me the fuck alone. Don't see any point in her statement. It's a pretty useless statement, isn't it? Donated privately, isn't that enough? 20-minute intense trip, depending on the amount. Damn. Try a little day MTA. It just was how do I say? It's just like the LS day, but it lasted about 30 seconds. Damn. Very different from Salvia, which lasts for 30 seconds, but it teleports you into the Shadow Realm. It really does. It really does take you straight to the Shadow Realm. And you'll meet big money Salvia there too. Actually, some people, what blows my mind is people that take Salvia for like parties and stuff. Because like when I tried it, it was like a very introspective, life-changing experience. It wasn't quite as short as what you're describing. I think mine lasted for like, I don't know, 10 to 20 minutes, but
this their cause. A lot of Americans from every different walk of life recognize the cruelty here. And if you actually ever stepped outside of your own bubble and went to one of these protests, you would realize that. If you ever actually participated in something, if you ever actually stood for something, you would realize that. But yeah, of course, podcaster Ethan Klein voices support for Contrapoints on his Instagram story. It is important to remind people that there is space to be anti-genocide, but also against annihilating Israel. Thank you, Contrapoints. It's important to remind people that there is space to be anti-genocide, pro-Palestine, but also against annihilating Israel. It is my belief that any lasting peace must have two elements, Palestinian self-determination and secure borders for Israel. Without both, peace fails. Many leftists would rather focus on purity tests and social credits than having a meaningful and realistic conversation about creating a lasting peace. The reaction to your post will prove my point, unfortunately. This is the other side of the story. Annihilating Israel. Dog, you're a Nazi, okay? When you say annihilating Israel, what you're talking about is the perspective that Israel should have democracy for everyone. Israel should not do an ethnic cleansing, and Israel should...
Yeah, when you say annihilate a place, like the image that you get in your mind is you're talking about like destroy civic life, kill everyone there, something like what Israel has done in Gaza, right? That's what annihilating a nation it really means, right? But when Ethan says it, he means ruining it by taking out the the ethno-religious supremacist clause from the Constitution and enfranchising everyone in the deleting the tiers of citizenship, right? That it currently has, and making everybody Palestinian, Israeli, whatever, a full citizen, right? That's what is like. Oh, that's annihilation. You've annihilated everything that I love and care about Israel. It's like that's basically like as it's a state that's as concerned with like demographics as the great replacement people, the great replacement Nazis in the United States are.
Allow the Palestinians, who literally it occupies every facet of existence of, breathing room, okay? Meaningful existence. Treat them like human beings instead of a parasitic force that must be excised. That is unacceptable. Why? Because you're a Zionist and you have the exact same hysterical fear that is rooted within Islamophobia and ethno-religious supremacist attitudes. Palestinians and Jews can never get along. Palestinian Muslims, Palestinian Christians and Jews can never live in the same.
You know what it is? The really ugly part of this is that it's a lot like a Vosh take from a debate that he had, where he was arguing against self-determination of marginalized people because he thought at the extreme end that could equate to the colonized people doing a genocide against the colonizers. And basically the logic of that goes like, look, we've done some bad shit to these people and they are justifiably angry at us. And if I was them, I would be thinking of genocidal thoughts against us. And therefore, we should not give them self-determination because it's too dangerous. It's too dangerous because of how we've treated them. If they got any level of power, they would certainly do the same shit to us that we've been doing to them, and that's unacceptable. And that is fucked up, amoral logic. That is a disgusting thought to be kicking around in a human head, and yet that's Vosh's thinking process, right? When people, wonder, why I was so gung-ho against Vosh even before the taxes folder revelation, right? That's why. That's why I think that's disgusting. I think that's dangerous, right? You're letting the immoral actions of your nation or your people in the past justify immoral actions against a group that you've been oppressing, that you have colonized, right? That's essentially what that logic that Hasan is talking about with Ethan in this case is about.
Place. That is exactly what people said in apartheid South Africa. Black people and white people can't live side by side. That's exactly what people said.
Some people in chat remember the debate I'm talking about.
Segregationist South and the Jim Crow South. That's what they said against the abolition of slavery. Yep. Anti-Semitism being a real bigotry does not change this dynamic. This is why people say you are a Zionist. Simply claiming that you're anti-genocide, but then spending every waking moment talking about how, well, sorry, these Muslims and these Christian Palestinians, these Muslim Palestinians, and these Jews, they can't live together because that would annihilate all the Jews. That'd be a Holocaust. That's insane. That's exactly what segregationists in the Jim Crow South said. That's exactly what David Duke says, okay, about black people, about Jews. It's insane. Oh, we just want secure borders. Like how? You're using the same terminology that Trump uses when he's talking about Mexicans invading the country. How does that not read for anyone else? Because there are a lot of liberals out there who are just completely rudderless and have no capacity to analyze the situation, have no way of understanding that they are unironically defending the exact same types of bigotry that they despise when Trump does it to their friends and their neighbors. But when it comes down to Israel, when it comes down to anti-Semitism, I think that is brick their brain a little bit. So they don't see it in the same exact vein. Oh, it's different? Why is it different? Why can't Muslims, Christians of Palestinian background live alongside Jews in a singular, solitary, secular state? Why does this have to be an ethno-state?
Whoa, singular, solitary, secular state? That sounds almost like what I say.
You guys to understand, this is why
I am sure, chat, that he's not a NCC viewer. Just
I think history is very important to learn so we do not repeat the lessons, okay? Every single historic fascist movement has always packaged its ideology with reason, okay? The Nazis didn't say we have to kill the Jews because we're evil and these guys
Hasan got bars. Those are my bars.
aren't actually doing anything, but we love killing them because we're evil and we just like want to kill Jews. They didn't say that. They created a logical reason. They created first the Jewish question, the dehumanization of Jews, the claims that Jews are a parasitic force that is both powerful and weak at the same time, the idea that Jews are taking down the German state by engaging in degeneracy in the halls of academia, controlling the money supply, all of this stuff. And then after decades of dehumanization that also even predated Germany itself, of centuries of dehumanization and anti-Semitism, they were able to captivate enough people. They were able to basically take advantage of that pre-existing historic anti-Semitism. That is precisely what you're advancing when you talk about Palestinians in this way. Okay? First, you present an issue with the conclusion of the argument in mind. Okay? You create a fake issue. You say Jews are ruining society. Okay, the economic volatility that you're experiencing is because of the Jews. Then you keep just saying Jews are responsible for everything. Okay, all of the wrong.
And you find somebody that was killed by a person that happened to be Jewish, and you morally panic about that. You pass a law that circumvents due process and allows you to deport people without that due process, and you get the fucking Democrats to vote for it. Yeah, it's the same script that we've seen run against undocumented people.
Everything that you're experiencing. And then you have to solve this problem, right? But the problem never existed. And that is precisely what Israel has done to the Palestinians. First, you create a question, Palestinians, the Palestinian question, and then you have to find a solution to the problem of Palestinian existence. In America, there's a different version of this, obviously. Immigrants, non-white immigrants specifically, create hysteria.
Chat, I want to point out, I have not pre-watched, at least this portion. I think I watched the beginning of this, but yeah, I did not get to hear. I just happen to have some of the same opinions, almost to a T.
Around it, keep hammering the point that they're violent criminals, keep saying that they're animals, keep saying that they're ruining society. As material conditions worsen, there are more and more people that are angry, resentful, frustrated, looking for an alternative, looking for a reason as to why they feel this anger. And one side doesn't actually respond to any of those frustrations, those economic anxieties, the Democrats, of course. And then the other side turns around and says, you're feeling all that anger and resentment, and that's good. It's because immigrants have taken your social safety nets. And then people lean on that. Now you have successfully created an environment where there is an immigrant question or a Jewish question or a Palestinian question. Now you're looking for a solution. But the problem never existed to begin with. It was not a real problem to begin with. The reason why I'm bringing this up is because a lot of people that look to these historic incidents, these historic events, mass cruelty, systematized death and destruction like the Holocaust, and think, oh, well, it's different now. Not different. The methods are the same. The fake hysteria is the same.
Yeah, I mean, it's like that thought that could never happen again, or that could never happen in my country. When you're thinking that, you're actually making it more likely that that can happen in your country.
The dehumanization is exactly the same. You cannot comprehend because you have been swept away with this propaganda. That's it. Just so chat knows, this is literally like saying I'm a liberal Jim Crow supporter. Of course, I abhor lynchings, but what neighborhoods must maintain secure borders, and radical civil rights terrorists will call me racist for saying this. Yep, that's it.